In the glow of the screen, late at night all alone, I saw the trailer for Hagar, felt it chill to the bone. Heroes in suits, shooting lasers so bright, but it all looked the same, like a copycat fight. Generic and bland, no spark in its soul, just another flop waiting to take its toll. Concord 2, you're breaking my heart. Uninspired dreams falling apart. Jeff Cayley hyped you at the end of the show. Final announcement, but we all know you launch with a whimper, fade into the dust, just like the first one, and you we can't trust. Concord 2, oh what a shame. Another generic game. Pixelated promises, but the story's so thin. Mechanics recycled, where do I begin? No heart in the heroes, no thrill in the chase. It's like they forgot how to light up the place. Investors are crying, developers sigh, while Jeff grins on stage under those bright lights so high. Oh, Concord 2, you're breaking my heart. Uninspired dreams falling apart. Jeff Cayley hyped you at the end of the show. Final announcement, but we all know you'll launch with a whimper, fade into the dust, just like the first one, and you we can't trust. Concord 2, oh what a shame. Another generic game. I dreamed of a world where games take us away, but this one's just echoes of yesterday. Servers will empty, reviews will be low, and we'll all move on to the next big no-show. So here's to Hagar, may you rest in peace soon, under the stars of a forgotten moon. Concord 2, you tried but you failed in the graveyard of games. Your story's unveiled.
The end. Rip Highguard. Honestly, it may end up being awesome. We don't know yet, but will it? Will it though? You know? You know? I don't. How are you guys? How is everybody doing? Everybody feeling good? Vibing? Anthem shuts down in a week. Dude, I wanted to do a video on it. This is a reason to follow me on Twitter. I was gonna do a video on it, but like, bro, straight up, it doesn't let you download it anymore. At least for me. If you try to download it, even though I own it, it gives you this prompt: we've canceled the game download because you don't own this game. So it lets you start downloading it, and then it cancels it, shuts it down. And like Dan's Gaming also had the same thing happen. You don't have access. What? When we literally own the game. Like, what are you talking about? Again, the game shuts down in a week. Not today. So by their own standards, it should be possible, but I don't get it. I don't get it. So even though it's still technically alive on paper, You can't download it, or at least I can't. I don't get it. I don't know. It's above my pay grade. Tell you what. So I don't know what the hell is happening there. I was gonna do another like goodbye Anthem video, but I mean, you literally can't do it. Can't do it. What do people actually expect when it comes to these online centric games? They will last and be supported until the sun goes out. The point is that it shouldn't be dead yet, and it is. So why not just shut it down now? You know, they basically did. No, there's a lot of these types of online games that just launch, and then if they don't go well, they die. They keep your money though. To their credit, I mean, again, we meme on Concord 24/7 because of course we do. But Concord, like they refunded everybody, they shut it down, they gave everybody their money back. Moved on from there. Not the same thing. The same thing cannot be said for a lot of other live service games that launch and they're like, oh, we made a little bit of money. We'll just take that. Whatever. Call it good. You know? Dino Seeker used the Force. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? They don't get credit for that. I mean, it's kind of tough to get credit for your flop not being the worst case scenario. Like there were enough other headlines that kind of dominated the discourse, you know, like you could make a video and be like, hey, at least they did this, but like the main message people are going to run with is everything else, you know. Thank you. My goodness. Thank you, Hannah. 7 months, yay, is gonna read it. I don't know. No, it's not. 7 months, yay. How's the start of everyone's year? I'm buying a house. Congratulations. Plus new job, all in the last month. Pretty good start to 26. Hell yeah. Congrats. That's fantastic. For us, like it's been kind of a slow rev up. Like today and tomorrow are the first days for the boys to go back to preschool and everything. Lockie is starting at a new preschool, which is pretty cool. So he's enjoying that, or at least I think he will enjoy that. Time will tell. But as for us professionally, at least, we've got a lot of other stuff going. Yeah, lots of pots on the stove, you know. We of course have the New Game Plus showcase coming very, very soon, so we'll have that to share and show off with everybody. New Game Plus. Here we go. If you've not seen this already, again, we have a showcase. The dream team is there. Me, Luality, I am Rob. Blue Thunder was busy having a baby. Oh, his wife. He didn't have the baby, but his, you know, you get what I mean. And then Hunter and Jake. I mean, it's a pretty solid crew. And yeah, look at this leaked image we found. Yeah, this was on the set. And I grant you, because I'm sitting next to Lua, I look gigantic. I get it. I didn't arrange the seats, okay? But she's tiny, and then I'm built like a block of Velveeta cheese, and so, you know, it's just the dynamic. But it was a really, really cool thing, and I will say, dude, I have never in my life been in a room with that much like heavy duty camera equipment pointed at us, and bro, it was hardcore. Yeah, and I told you guys, you will see over the course of the show that like I started getting redder and redder in the face, because it went from when we started at like 68 degrees Fahrenheit in that room. By the end of the day, bro, we filmed for like 9 hours or something. And it's funny that it takes 9 hours to film an hour and a half show or whatever it ends up being. But we filmed for like 9 hours. And by the end of it, it was like 90 degrees in there. It was so hot. But the crew that was working on it was fantastic. They were all tremendous. And I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a good time. And this, again, for us with this one, we started very lean. I mean, this thing has been thrown together in a matter of a few months, and even with that, we have 45 games that we're showing off, new trailers, gameplay, dev interviews, and stuff like that. This year we're not doing like world premieres or anything. But the goal is potentially next December we should have a much bigger show. So this is kind of proof of concept, and it should still be fun and it should be interesting. But the show for next year is when we're really going to be able to like take it up a notch. You know, it's gonna be crazy. Gonna be crazy. If you want to watch the show yourself, my goal is for us to co-stream it, but basically January 8th. So as you can see, that lands on the beautiful day of Thursday. Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be broadcasting it on all of the channels and everything. So definitely worth keeping an eye out for. And again, it's so cool to see some of the partners we were able to get. Distant Shore, Bretagne, I always mispronounce it. And honestly, the interest level in this has been kind of crazy. It's been really, really humbling to see how many people are interested just in something new, something different, you know, and it'll be fun. And like I said, it's a good first go. And then next year or this year, we're going to go crazy. Whereas the Raptor is busy and lives in another country, which makes it a little more difficult. Lua bounces between, she's still in like North America and South America is my understanding. So she bounces around a lot, but she's in the US pretty regularly. So it wasn't a big deal for her to come, but everybody else is America. But you never know for next year. For next year, we might be able to get something. I will say, dude, like seriously, we've gotten so many people reaching out behind the scenes, like even some like kind of low-key big deal people like DMing and be like, hey, let us know if you're doing the show next year. We'd love to be a part of it. And I'm like, okay, we'll definitely do that. So I will say for next year, I think that we're gonna come out swinging, because there's a lot of people out there that want to showcase their games that don't have $1 million, you know, or don't want to spend $1 million, you know. Did Ubisoft DM you? No. Should they have? What do you know? So it's a yearly show. Yeah, our goal ultimately is to do more than just once a year. Our goal is to also be able to do like sort of mini documentaries and mini showcases of games throughout the year. So let's say hypothetically there's like a studio in, I'll say Poland, because every studio is in Poland nowadays. Let's say there's a studio in Poland that has an upcoming game. Our goal is like April. We travel to the studio, one or two of us, and we film basically dev interviews, behind the scenes looks at them making the game and getting some news about what the game is and some cool feature reveals and stuff like that. And then we put that together into a documentary and we put that out in like May. You know, that's the goal, is for us to be able to break it up and have a lot of stuff throughout the year. And the ultimate like guiding element is that it's not about how much money the studio has or the developers have. It's about the quality of the game full force. And so there's no buying your place in the show. There's none of that. If you're in the show, it's because we as a team think that it's worth being shown. And I will say there were still, even though we're brand new, there were a few projects that we passed on that were like, hey, maybe we could show something. And we're like, not a great fit. Maybe next year, you know? But it's really cool. And again, it's a phenomenal team. So we'll check it out. Filming a documentary in April, releasing it in May is ambitious. Yes. Yes, it is. You're damn right. I thrive on that though, dude. I love it. People are always shocked that we're able to pump out like 2-hour videos in the span of like a month or two. It's like, hey, yeah, if you got the hustle, that's what happens, you know? Black Ops 8. They're like, after how bad last year was, they could only afford to come to us. They couldn't afford Jeff's show anymore. That's pretty funny. Yeah, and to be clear, I think that Jeff's show is phenomenal and has done a ton for the industry. And obviously it's huge because people connect with it. But I think that it's left a bit of a void where there's just not a great option for a lot of these smaller studios that want to show their games to an audience but don't have the resources, you know, because there's a big gap between being like a viral indie dev that got a trailer to go viral so you get showcased at the Game Awards, and then having enough money to go to the Game Awards. It's a big gap. And 99% of devs who have phenomenal games are in that middle ground, you know, and are like, we just want people to see our game, but we don't have money to burn like that, you know? So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be cool. Okay. Let me do real quick. I just wanted to mention these because these are crazy. Not really big enough to do whole segments on, but I figured I'd mention them. NVIDIA is apparently looking at bringing back the RTX 3060 in Q1 to tackle current gen GPU and memory shortages. They're just going back. Just Control Z on that. Never mind. Let's do it again. I mean, realistically, it's because like all the 40 series and 50 series are sold out. I saw a picture of Micro Center. I wonder if I can find it. I saw a picture of Micro Center, which if you don't know, it's like the PC gaming hardware place. Like it's baller. I don't see it. There's this picture going around. They only have one 5090 in stock, and they've slapped these price hikes on these. Dude, look at the stickers stacked up. 128 gigs, $2,000. 192 gigs, $2,200. Bro. I also saw pictures though of their shelves, because normally they have all these cages full of GPUs, like full, and all of them are sold out now. As he says, only one 5090 was in stock, and it's because everybody's running on the banks. Everybody's running in, buying up all the hardware because they know it's going to go up even more next year. You want to know how I know it's going to go up even more next year? You know what happened? Samsung's CEO, co-CEO, is saying that all of these memory shortages will eventually next year also affect TV and home appliance prices. Meaning your refrigerator just got more expensive to fix. Meaning that your washing machine that has that cool feature to like delay start, even that's going up in price, dude. It's insane. It's crazy. Like, and again, the only way to fix this realistically is to increase demand, or increase supply rather, or decrease demand. You're probably not decreasing demand because it's data centers who are spending like $90 billion on this stuff. Like they have all the money to burn and you don't. Okay. So you're probably not lowering demand. You sitting out will not affect this. Okay. Like, because if every person on earth that was considering buying this type of RAM sits out and doesn't buy anything for the next 2 years, they're like, okay, cool. That doesn't come close to one contract with these data centers. Not even close. So they don't care. Like, it's probably less than 1% of one of those data centers, you know? So you can't really do that. And the other option is to increase supply. The only way you increase supply is with like new fabs manufacturing more stuff, or as some people have suggested, like regulation. So if the government stepped in and said, okay, you can't sell more than this percentage to data centers. You have to break it up with some consumer grade stuff, which might happen theoretically. I personally don't think so, because our entire economy is held up by companies investing in data centers. So regulating them sounds like a great way to crash the economy, which they do not want. Shocker. So I think that this is just the new normal. You wanted 128 gigs of RAM? Sucks to suck. It's going to be $2,000, dude. Sucks to suck. It is what it is. You wanted your smart refrigerator? Boom. Just went up $500 because it has RAM in it. Like, I think what this realistically will do, though, like in the grand scheme of things, is that a lot of people will just pause on upgrades. You won't see a lot of, I mean, hardware sales were already slowing down a lot. Now hardware sales are nosediving. I mean, next year, no, I keep saying next year, this year, 2026, there's going to be like very, very few people that are going to be coming in and upgrading hardware, buying a new PC, moving from a console to PC, vice versa. I just don't think you're going to see it because prices will just continue to skyrocket. And I don't think that there's any easy fix for it. So it is what it is. Beyond that, I think, you know, in the rest of the economy, you probably also see people pausing. Like, I don't think you'll see a lot of people upgrading their smartphones this year, unless like you're in the top 1% and you can eat an extra $200-300 like it's nothing. But if you're just like a regular person and your phone upgrade just went up significantly, I think you're probably just going to sit out, you know. So what are these prices? The new norm, I think. $2,000 for RAM, 2200. And you can see again, just the stickers stacked on top of each other really shows how quickly this has happened. I mean, the fact that it originally had a price tag on it and then they put like 2, 3, 4 stickers on top of it because nobody was buying it at that price back there, and it's only gone up. Literally, like I told you guys, we did the math. I did it again yesterday. I did the math. I had my PC, my streaming PC, die back in, I think it was August or September, one of the two. And it just like an NVMe SSD fried, and it was a whole thing. But I needed to replace a good chunk of it. Like a lot of it got swapped out. And when I did that, I, you know, upgraded a few other parts, upgraded some stuff in the gaming PC, some new SSDs. I upgraded my wife's stuff at the same time because I was like, I don't get down to Micro Center very often. And I did the math. What I spent there, I think that day I spent like $4,000 or something on all of my upgrades and everything, which is not bad for like a once every few years type of thing. Today, if I were to go and try to buy that same stuff, $9,000. It was like $9,600 or something. What? Like $9,600. It was a lot. Don't get me wrong. Like $4,000 of upgrades, like because you know it was like I had to do all new motherboards, NVMe SSDs, a new RAM, which at the time, like just the RAM, I think I paid like $400 or $500 for the 128 gig or something kit. And today that RAM kit is like $2,000 because it's, I think it's probably close to this one, if not this exact one. No, they're white. But it's probably close to this one. And that RAM is now probably 4 times the price. That's insane. It's ridiculous. I got that 128 gig $2,000 kit for $340 in August. Bro. Yeah, it's crazy. You know how back in the day, like a few years ago, everybody was like, I should have bought Bitcoin in 2014. Now, the new Bitcoin is I should have bought RAM in August. It's absolutely wild. But again, I don't see the mechanism by which this changes. I just don't see it. Because in order for it to change, there has to be some impetus for it to change. And I just don't know what that would be. Man, it's absolutely crazy. But that's just where we are, man. That's just where we are. So I'm not saying you should go upgrade your PC or anything because it's only got more crazy. What I'm saying is that if you can sit on the sidelines and you don't need to upgrade, sit on the sidelines, because you probably are going to be sitting on the sidelines for like a year and a half, 2 years, but it's a lot better than spending $2,000 on RAM that realistically should be like $300-400, you know? It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Oh, you saved 1,000 by buying right away? Yeah, I mean, it's the one time where having impulse control issues actually ended up saving me money. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? I'm going to tell my wife, no, it actually saved us money. You don't need to go buy a new laptop, Luke. No, the last time it saved me money, frankly. Speaking of buying a new laptop, I think I'm going to sell off my MacBook Pro. I've had it for a few years. I think it's like a 23 model. I had an iPhone at the time, and so it kind of made sense there, but man. Yeah, my mouse is dying. I know. Yeah, he's fighting for his life. You gotta hold out. It's not time to go to sleep yet, you know. Is the Black Flag remake coming out this year still? Yes. I think it's more and more likely by the day. I still think they should shadow drop it, but we'll see what they do. Might have news on that soon enough. You never know. Mac sucks butt. It makes sense, I think, if you use them in very particular ways. For me, though, especially as like, I don't know, for my workflow and what I like to do, it just doesn't really make any sense. So I was looking at trading it in for a something else. It's held its value pretty well, honestly, but yeah, I'm gonna have to probably sell and trade it. I think it was like 1900 bucks, and it's worth like 900 today, which after like what, almost 3 years, it's not bad for a laptop to still have like 50% of its value. That's kind of crazy. A lot of them don't. Part of it is I live in like a college town, so there's a lot of college students that want a MacBook for school. Because I don't know if you guys remember in college, if you went to college, when I went, it was like a social status symbol if you had the Mac laptop. That was how you showed that, like, I'm better than you. It was a very particular thing that kids wanted a MacBook for the status. And it was seen as if you had like a Windows PC, that you were like a brokey. But you know, the one exception to that was in the business school. In the business school, they'd make fun of you for having a Mac. Which I thought was funny. You go to like the library, everybody's like, Windows
Totally
PC.
Not Wellington
Business school,
donated
no.
£9.99 through Super Chat. Luke, do you think Battlefront 3 ever gets made? I know EA won't make it, but it's so annoying that it may never come out. Feels like a missed opportunity.
Oh, for sure.
I'm aware licensing costs
Are high. Yeah, well, I think that realistically, there is an opportunity there. If I'm being real, I think it's probably one of those things that goes for like 10 years. They don't show anything. And then, you know, just as the nostalgia starts hitting right and they greenlit another Star Wars trilogy because they think they can milk the franchise some more, I think then you'll see it happen. But it's probably like mid 2030s. So I think it will eventually happen. Probably more of a reboot, frankly. So I don't think it's going to be like Battlefront 3. I think it'll be Battlefront again. You know, but I do think eventually you'll see it because it just makes too much sense. But I think they'll wait until they can really capitalize on nostalgia and then do it, which is probably not a bad strategy. Thank you for the 10. Let's see, Nemo Xavier, thank you for the membership. Forged Horizons 35 months. Ooh, baby, that's fantastic. Almost 3 years. That's insane. So GTA 6's current release date is after the Game Awards cutoff window. Do they make an exception for GTA 6, or do they hardline say no and push them to the 26th show? Cutoff was November 1st this year, apparently. Was it though? Because I thought, when did the first episode of Dispatch come out? Oh, I guess October. So it did technically launch in the window. Interesting. I mean, he's got to make an exception, right? Like, how do you have the 2026 Game Awards and not include GTA 6? And wouldn't that just totally suck for all the games to come out a year later in 2027 that are just going to get curb stomped by GTA 6? I don't know, man. I think they got to make an exception, right? Or just extend the window. Or, I don't know. I think they gotta. The Hooster, thank you for the 5. Did you see the Steam Awards showcase? It was much more representative of gaming in 2025 than the Game Awards show. Still sad KCD 2 didn't win though. KCD 2, it's one of those games that's like a little more niche. It like is very, very good, but it doesn't have that same virality that like Expedition 33 did, or some of the other games did. So it's just a tough year to be KCD. Excuse me, sorry, I need to drink my energy drink. The caffeine hasn't kicked in yet. Oh my goodness. I don't think Rockstar cares enough about the Game Awards. No, I don't think Rockstar cares. I think that they are like, you're gonna make an exception, pussy. Like, I think that they don't care at all, and they're just like, you're gonna do whatever we say because we're Rockstar, and they're probably not wrong. So I don't think the Game Awards cutoff entered into the conversation of release window once. I highly doubt it. Let's see. Hawking, think of the 10 months. I feel this is them saying be happy, brokies. Oh, the 3060 thing? I don't know, probably. All of this, I think, is just sucks. Soul Thrasher 96, also thank you for the sub with Prime. Thank you, my friend. I mean, God of War 2018 did beat Red Dead 2 for GOTY. It did. It sure did, which, looking back on it, it's all the more impressive that it managed to do that. You know, it's absolutely crazy. Kodiak, thank you for that. Xbox and PlayStation may be pushing back launch of RAM Crisis, or launch because of the RAM Crisis. AI hoarding RAM with no power. I mean, literally, the problem with the AI stuff right now is that they literally do not have enough electricity to run the data centers they're building. So they are building data centers with no capacity for powering them. And you know what's interesting is that Google has started to invest heavily into companies that are building out nuclear power plants. So realistically, I think you'll probably end up in a spot where like you will have corporately built and sort of governed cities where it's like a city built around a data center with a nuclear power plant next to it. And then there will be a city that comes up around the data center to like also enjoy the power that they're producing. And they have to bring in a lot of water to cool all the systems because of the immense amount of power energy being used. So you'll have these corporate, you know, pillars all throughout the country and the world where they've set up data centers. And then you're going to see people kind of huddling around them. The other technique that they're looking at, apparently Elon thinks it's the strategy, is to do data centers in orbit, because then heat dissipation's not that big of a deal. And you also have a big nuclear fusion reactor in the form of the sun. And if you have just massive solar panels, you can harness that. I don't know how that works, because it seems like that's really heavy to launch into space, you know? I don't know how that works, but yeah, that's a lot of wire. It seems like a lot of weight, but I'm sure that, I mean, all of these people are way smarter than me, so I'm sure they'll figure it out. You know, it's above my pay grade, frankly. I'll tell you what, it is, you know what? I'll just smile and nod and be like, oh, my phone's working. Cool. I'm just glad to be here, you know? Cooling in space can be pretty hard to do, though. I think there's that. And then the other one that, was it Amazon was investing in, were underwater data centers, like in the ocean. Which, having something in the ocean that just produces an insane amount of heat seems... I mean, maybe it's not a big deal because the ocean is the ocean, but it also seems like a dangerous thing to just like literally start putting space heaters into the ocean, especially when everybody's already worried about ocean temperatures rising. You know? Seems like a dangerous plan. Yeah, let's boil the ocean, basically. You know?
Donated $10 through Super Chat. I read that it's not possible cause heat doesn't dissipate like it does with data centers on Earth.
I guess if there's no medium by which it can leave, it wouldn't work the same way. Because I understand that, like, I've played a lot of Kerbal Space Program. So I know that when you are facing the source of like solar radiation, there's immense heat. On the flip side, on the shaded side, it's immensely cold because it's just a lack of energy, right, bouncing on it. But I guess technically if you are producing energy and heat, on that offside, it still doesn't really have a way to get rid of it other than just radiating the energy. Maybe you could use it as some form of like propulsion or something. I don't know, man. I don't know. You know what? Put it on the moon. We don't need that thing. We don't need that thing. Data centers on the moon. I think that's what we need to do. The problem with doing that, though, is that it's so far away. Like, what's the light travel time to the moon? Isn't it like 7 seconds or something? Or is that from the sun? I think that's from the sun. Light takes approximately 1.3 seconds. So you'd have 1,300 milliseconds of latency. And that's just to get there. So it'd be like 2.5 seconds of latency for round trip, which makes it not super great, even if you have a way to beam data back and forth. You know? Literal moon lag. Yeah. You know what? We'll just run a cable. That doesn't fix it either, because light, you know, is the problem. I don't know. That's crazy, dude. That's insane. Anyway, my brain hurts now. We'll let smarter people figure it out. Okay. Let's talk about this also. I wanted to mention this in case you missed it. NVIDIA said that they are about to, I should correct this. It is rumored that NVIDIA is actually about to release and reveal the next generation of gaming tech. Did you think it was going to be a new GPU, the 60 series? Oh, you fool. You silly moron. No. Of course, they're bringing back the 3060s because they don't know what else to do. But what they're also doing is introducing, allegedly at CES, DLSS 4.5 with even more frames. This is, man, frame generation's cool. The upscaling stuff is cool. But when we get to the point where you're talking about 6x frame generation, I think we're getting a little silly. Like, it starts to sound like we're literally, like, you will be rendering more fake frames than rendering real frames. You know, it just starts to get insane. NVIDIA is set to announce DLSS 4.5 as the next step for its DLSS 4 stack, with changes centered on super resolution and the new dynamic multi-frame generation path designed to better match display's refresh rate target. For image quality, DLSS 4.5 super resolution moves to a second generation transformer model. NVIDIA says the training pipeline now covers more failure cases and uses a larger data set, with the goal of better temporal stability, less ghosting, and cleaner anti-aliasing. The company also shared a DLSS 4 versus 4.5 comparison slide that highlights reduced ghosting in motion. As the name suggests, it is not locked to a single multiplier. Instead, users may see a 3x to 6x more frames, depending on the settings. NVIDIA frames this update as a way to deliver smoother gameplay on high refresh rate monitors, including 240 hertz panels. And if we look at this little sheet, I clicked on the link. What? I just wanted to see the sheet, the data sheet. Now it's gone. Okay. Was that not the, I thought it was the slide. Okay. I don't know what the hell's happening anymore, dude. I don't. It's a sign. I need to take up Tai Chi, apparently. So anyway, it looks like the goal is basically to introduce 6x up to 6x more frames being generated, and that's what they're doing now. It looks like it'll launch in spring, though. The multi-frame generation dynamic 6x frame generation will launch in spring of 26 as an RTX 50 series exclusive feature to try and still get people to do that. You know, it's just crazy to me that years ago upgrading your GPU was always framed around like you're upgrading it to get the more powerful hardware. Now it's framed as you're upgrading the GPU to get better software features, and yeah, it'll be probably more powerful hardware, but only by like 10%. The real benefits come from like these algorithmically generated frames. And honestly, I've gone back and forth with this because at times I feel like such a boomer, you know? At times I feel like this is not a big deal. You know, like if you didn't tell me how you were getting the higher frame rate and you just let me look at the footage, would I be able to tell that something was being like generated falsely or through trickery? And I think a few years ago you could still tell. Nowadays, it's pretty damn good. Like, it's pretty good. Modern frame generation is pretty impressive. The problems come with like latency and stuff, but it's very impressive. So I appreciate that. But I think where I get more peeved by it is that it's just becoming more and more of a piece of reliance, where these companies are not seemingly really polishing or optimizing their games except for rare instances, and instead they're just relying on upscaling and frame generation to do the heavy lifting. It's annoying. It's annoying. It's why I want to reward studios that do it really well. Like, you know, we saw KCD 2. They optimized the crap out of that game. They really, really did. And it deserves credit for that. It's refreshing to see a studio like put a lot of time into it, you know? It's crazy. Wave fake frames. These aren't truly rendered, but predicted, meaning they don't account for real-time input, leading to latency. You saw that as an example in Monster Hunter Wilds, Borderlands 4, etc. List goes on in AAA games. Exactly. Well, and there's ways that you can kind of be really tricky with it, and frame generation works way better at really high refresh rates because you can start to play with like the human's ability to perceive time and their reaction speed.
At Edgar Vasquez 9580 donated $10 through Super Chat. I literally bought a 5090 at MSRP because I am afraid of a $5,000 GPU. If anyone is on the market for a 4080 rolling on the floor laughing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Dude, I don't blame. Honestly, if you have the money to upgrade, it's probably the best time that it's going to be for the next 2-3 years, as far as I can tell. So if you have the money, you know, no judgment, do it. No judgment, do it. But what I was going to show you is this. Because at higher frame rates, you can start to play with people's perceptions. What you can do is like really sneaky stuff. This is how it was explained to me. Where like if a frame is rendered here, a real frame, what the GPU can do is it can like now go and target rendering this frame. And when it produces this frame, you know, that has the little character and the stick figure, okay, what it can then do is take the frame that was rendered here of the guy maybe with one hand a little bit lower, and it can then meld these two together into a new frame here, and then do the same with the next frame, and then just kind of skip and splice them together. And because you are a human being and you're not sitting there processing in 240ths of a second, your brain just sees a smooth transition of frames throughout this, right? But what it's doing is really tricky and sneaky. And it's way better than what it used to be, which was, as far as I understand it, you render this frame, you predict what the next frame will be, and then you render the next frame, and then you render, you know, or you predict what the next frame will be. Now they can do all sorts of insanely tricky things going back, like basically back in time. And all of this stuff is maybe stuttered or shifted forward. Like imagine if they just take this timeline and they shift it all forward 3 240ths of a second. And so they're displaying a frame to you 3 240ths of a second after it was rendered, but that allows them to do this trickery where they render this one and then interpolate the next frame between them. It just gets like super trippy. But where you start to suffer is with input latency, because as I just described, you're shifting timelines forward and doing all sorts of stuff. It just starts to break your brain, you know? Which is why still to this day, competitive shooter players, you'll see them play with all of the settings turned all the way down. Even in like Arc Raiders, they play with all of the graphical settings turned all the way down to max out the frame rate, and they turn off upscaling, they turn off all that stuff, and they just brute force it because it's better for latency. Destin, good to see you. Flexified, thank you for the 5. Hey Luke, cancel me, I don't care. But what mic and XLR interface do you have? I've always wondered. This is a Shure SM7B. It's actually the same microphone that Michael Jackson recorded Thriller on. Fun fact about the SM7B. And if you are like the whole album, not just the one song. And then the interface is the Go XLR. They don't make them anymore. I'm sad about that. They also don't really exist anymore, so they don't do software updates. I love it dearly, the Go XLR. It's fantastic, but yeah, they don't make them anymore, unfortunately. So there you go. There you go. Sometimes it's prettier. I can't read. Sometimes it's prettier. It also adds foliage and stuff that makes bad guys harder to see, and good to see you too. Yeah, they'll do. There was a problem, I think, in Arc Raiders where specifically if you turned off certain filters like the haze, the fog and stuff like that, if you turn down post-processing like bloom, it actually gave you a competitive advantage because you could see clearer. I remember that being a thing in, I think it was PUBG, where if you turned down the graphics settings, the foliage would stop being rendered at distances so you could see players better. It's like, that seems like an Overwatch or an oversight rather. Overwatch, that's a Freudian slip because you know what we're talking about next. You know what we're talking about next. The same thing that we talked about in our song. Meta, thank you for that. What is the benefit of high frame rates past something like 240 besides esports? How is higher and higher multi-frame generation going to benefit the average gamer? I don't know if it'll benefit the average gamer. I think what it'll do is it'll make it so if you can generate 6 predicted frames or quote unquote fake frames for every 1 real frame generated, then you only need to optimize for like 50 frames a second or 40 frames a second, but you can claim your game runs up to 240 frames. See? Problem solved. Problem solved. News day, man. All right, fam. I saw this tweet from Paul and I had to pause and wonder, speculate even. Yeah, I'm buckling up for this launch. Is it really launching? Their Twitter account has 5,000 followers and has not tweeted since the night of the Game Awards. Highguard, as you can see, DX tweeted this. Anyone else remember that Highguard? Let me go back, Jacob. Sorry, Jacob. Let me go back. We'll redo the intro, okay? Hi guys, welcome to the stream. Let me try that again. Okay. So Highguard, we all remember the stunning, brave, and beautiful game that was revealed at the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley's favorite game of the whole show. This was revealed back on December 11th. And since then, they've actually gone completely radio silent. This has been mentioned by a few people. DX tweeted, anyone else remember that Highguard is supposed to come out in 3 weeks? Which is true. Like 3 weeks from today, it's supposed to be coming out. And they're just AFK, dude. They're just AFK. They dropped that trailer at the Game Awards, then have completely been silent since then. Everything screams DOA or Dead on Arrival. I've not seen a game have literally no hype like this since Concord. Yeah. Paul replied to it. Yeah, I'm buckling up for this launch. Is it really launching? Their Twitter account, Play Highguard, has 5,000 followers and has been not tweeted since the night of the Game Awards. This is the last tweet that they put out. What a night. We'd like to extend a big thank you to Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards. We have so much in store for you when the game launches on January 26th, and we can't wait to welcome everyone into the world of Highguard. We'll see you next year, Wardens. So here's the thing. To play devil's advocate, it's possible that they just went on vacation over the holidays and have literally been out of office. That seems weird to me, considering they're supposed to be launching a game in January to just like take 2, 3, 4 weeks off, but it's, I guess, not impossible. To have literally no social media presence is a little crazy, because if you go to their page, again, sure enough, there's just nothing. There's just nothing after this. And frankly, I can't say I'm surprised. People were pretty mean. I mean, whatever, just prepare yourself. Prepare yourself, okay? Some of these comments are rough. Some of these comments are rough. This game, again, this is on their, like, thanks for watching our reveal post, okay? I'm not condoning these comments. I think they're kind of nasty. Immortal Killa, this game won't last a year. Nobody wants this. We all cheered when they said Titanfall, and then it got silent when he said original IP. Yeah, WTF are we doing here, guys? Player base made of 15 sweaty ass dudes. I'm calling it. We were robbed of Titanfall 3 for this. Game won't make it more than a year, dog. Don't release this, shizzle. Game is literally DOA. Crying with laughter emoji. Y'all need to explain what the game is more. The character designs look bland as F. If you're going to do a fantasy game, give us some real freaks. Finally, somebody I can agree with. Let me play some lizard man with a big tail or some other weird creature thing with a tail, of course. Then maybe I'll care. Name checks out. What does that even... do I want to know what this means? Tail lover? Oh, he's Canadian. Oh, there you go. Checks out. Concord 2.0. Why no white male heroes? I think the guy on the cover literally is white, isn't he? Like, I think he literally is white. Anyway. Trash. Game requires secure boot. Okay, I guess people are worried about that. What a waste of everyone's time. Why did you make Concord 2? Concord 2. This game looks fun. Please don't let the haters get to you. I'm excited to play this at launch. 16 likes. There you go. Boo. You look like... Sorry. So as you can see, the response on their social media has not been great. And as a result, I wouldn't blame them if they wanted to take a step back. But I think what this should be revealing to them is that this probably is not ending super well. And what we've seen from a lot of studios, like Concord again being an operative example, is that sometimes it just makes more sense to cut your losses than it does to try and greenlight something and just lose money with it for a year or two, however long the servers are up. You know, it just doesn't really work. And so I think the odds, what I want to do is I want to do a poll real quick. Okay. We're going to do a straw poll and we're going to come back to this. Okay. Officially, I'm going to do a straw poll. And what I want to know from you is, let's do this. Highguard's fate. Okay. All I want to know is it's canceled pre-launch. So it basically doesn't launch. It's delayed. Okay. Or it launches on, I think it was January 26th. January 26th. Okay. This is what I want to know. And again, the fact that we have to ask the question is kind of crazy because you would think that like you shouldn't have to ask that question for a typical game. But let me post this in both chats for everybody to vote on. You can just quickly, tab into that and vote on it. And then we can put all of the votes together. Realistically, I think that it probably gets announced that it's being delayed and they're just going to try to wait out the negativity. That's my expectation. But let's see what the results are saying as you guys vote on it. A lot of you guys think that they're still going to put it out. They're still going to do it. Okay. I'm going to say delay. What would they even do with the delay? I think literally just try to ride out the negativity. Like, I think the hope literally would be wait out and hope that people just kind of forget that they were upset about it. VPN voting not allowed. It doesn't surprise me. They don't tend to be that forgiving with that stuff. But I mean, it looks like a pretty even split between its delayed and launches on January 26th. Realistically, like we've talked about odds of success before. I think with like Marathon at this point, I think Marathon has higher odds of popping off than Highguard does at this point. Not because, I think there's anything necessarily terrible about the developers or that I think that, Marathon is way, way better or anything. I think it literally just comes down to the simple consideration that like this thing is like toxic right now. And more than anything, it's like I've said before, the one thing that's worse than people hating your game is when they just do not care. And with this, I mean, again, they don't even have 5,400 followers. Is Concord's page still up? Concordium. Play Concord. Dude, Concord had twice the followers. Now, granted, maybe I can go in the Wayback Machine. What was it like right about launch? Wayback Machine. Let's see. Maybe I have to go to twitter.com. Maybe, no, it's not. Maybe at Play Concord. No, it's not working. Bummer. It's not backed up apparently. But that's not great. You know, not great. When you're at half the follower count of the game that people use as a slur. You know? And that's the thing is nowadays people literally refer to Concord like as if it's a bad word. At least this had like some unique elements. Like again, look at this. This is a unique cutscene that actually is like, oh, okay.
What happened? Did it cut out?
No. We're taking a moment to pay homage.
Why are you kissing a tchotchke?
This is an authentic item from the Starship Implacable. How do you two not know about the Implacable?
In game or on the YouTube page. Again, I can't get over how this, like that thing we just watched, Herman Holst reportedly called a innovative, no, it wasn't even reported. He did say it publicly. He said that it was a revolutionary means of storytelling within gaming. Was little vignette cutscenes that are about a minute long that would play either on YouTube or in the game each
At
week.
No Filter Noah donated $10 through Super Chat. Is KCD2 on the level of a RDR2? I feel like I will really like it based of everything you say about it, and as someone who loves Red Dead 2 but I am not sure. What are the differences and should I try it out?
I mean, setting aside the obvious ones with like it being first person versus third person, the setting changes and stuff. It's much more sim heavy. So like you need to sleep, you need to eat. If you overeat, there's negative status effects. There's stuff like that. But I think it's incredibly immersive. And if you like Red Dead 2 for the immersive elements, you're probably going to really like KCD 2 as well. I think it's very good. It's very good. Luke, did you get another Huel sponsor code? I'm due to get more soon. Yeah, we're going to do another Huel integration. They sent me these things, bro. Technically, as of today, I'm not doing a sponsorship with them. So this is unsponsored. Bro, these things are fire. I'm not joking. I went online because my wife also loves them, and I ordered 3 packages, bundles, whatever you call them, of these because they have a few different flavors. It's like it's like an energy drink meets fruit juice. It's very good. It's very cool. Like I'm devouring it, and it's way cheaper than going to get a coffee. Tell you what, local coffee shop near my house that we've gone to a lot, they raised their prices again now for like a standard whatever Americano or cold brew or whatever. They're charging like $7+ for it. Now, to be fair, they don't hound you for like tips because, you know, a lot of places it might be like $6 for coffee, but they basically demand that you give them $1 or $2 tip. It's not like that. They just kind of take it and then they pay their employees. But still, $7 for a coffee, bro. That's rough. That's rough. Like, I struggle with that one. And I love spending money. And even I'm like, really? Anyway, so going back to this, there's other reporting. Insider Gaming says Highguard could be dead on arrival as gamers fear a flop is inbound. I don't know if they fear it. I mean, you look at this one, like, yeah, it's been compared to Concord. There's so much going on here. It's unreal. There's one of the first failures of Highguard. It's trying to be so unique while taking inspiration from many other games. It is spawned with a twisted, hard to place identity that gets lost in the complexity of all. You know, it's possible. It's possible that it is actually just like so unique that it looks like nothing unique at all. But that's almost, I mean, I think that's just a tautology. Like you're just saying it's this, and so therefore it's that. I just don't understand what the point of even saying that is. It's, you know, maybe, oh, it's got horses and then it's also a hero-based shooter. It's all that. Okay. I think really what it is that it was hyped up way too much. So people came into it with really, really high expectations, and it just doesn't look that compelling. And they're comparing it to Titanfall from the makers of Apex Legends and Titanfall. And instead of reminding them of those games, it reminds them of other hero-based shooters that were overhyped, like a Concord. And as a result, that's what people have in their mind. And the thing is, once people have connected the dots there, it's very hard to undo that. You know, it's just very, very hard. But I really believe that was not the first time they had heard comparisons to Concord. I'm guessing if they did any play testing, they heard people say the comparison. I highly, highly doubt that came as like a shock to them, that people made that comparison. Because it's just, I think it's kind of obvious. And to be clear, I was not the only one saying it. Many other people said it too. People all over the internet were saying it, which is why it kind of immediately blew up the way that it did. It was just like totally unremarkable, but it was remarkable in how unremarkable it was. So I don't know. The final results of our poll, sorry for it not letting VPN users do it, is that 46% of you said that you think it launches on its original launch date. 46% of you roughly said that you think it's going to be delayed, and 7% of you thought that it's going to be canceled before it even launches. Wouldn't shock me, because I'd be like, yeah, you're probably going to save some money, because I think that they're fighting a big uphill battle. But even if you delay it, your odds of success maybe go from like 0% or 1% to like 2%. But still, I don't think that's enough. So, yeah. What I'm seeing is that the same people, I'm seeing the same phenomenon happen. Where people are not interested in the game, but they are interested in people talking about the game. And that's dangerous for them too, because when people care more about watching the dumpster fire than putting the dumpster fire out or helping with it, then you're like actually screwed, because then it's like your failure becomes a piece of entertainment, you know? And I think the reason for that is because people like to see things that they detest fail, and they root for that. So they hate to see that, like, the Game Awards frame the final announcement, the big reveal, as a live service uninspired multiplayer game. And so they want to see that fail so that Jeff and everybody else learns, yeah, don't do that again. And I think that that's why it is. The best part of Highguard is that we might get a new Krobicat video. Yeah. Come out of retirement. Let's see. Samuel, thank you for that one. Am I crazy for wanting to try Highguard? It's good that it doesn't have a $40 price tag like Concord, but it's morbid curiosity at this time. Yeah, well, and I think a lot of people will try it. It's why when we did our predictions for what the peak player counts on the first week are, most people thought that the peak player count for Highguard will be higher than like for Marathon, for example, which I think is probably true. I think more people will probably try Highguard than will try Marathon, because Marathon's a $40 premium price tag. But I think a month after launch, Marathon's going to take it all day, every day, because I think that a lot of people, excuse me, I think a lot of people will try Highguard and then give it up after an evening and just move on, you know? I think that's just how it goes. Let's see. Don't get me wrong. If the game, I'll try the game when it actually comes out, because free to play, but not going in with high expectations. Still not sure what the game is really about. I will say, for being the final announcement and having a long trailer that was like 2.5 minutes long, it's still not super clear what it is. It seems to have MOBA inspirations, but also is like a hero shooter, but also has larger maps. And then it's like base capturing. I don't know. It's just not very clear. The trailer didn't do a great job of that either. But like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, it's like, again, I just feel like this all was very avoidable if they got any feedback at all, but they didn't. And now they are going to suffer the results of it. Okay. Let me close that down. I want to talk about this, because this one's also crazy. This one's insane. Let's see. Oh shit, they have birds? Count me in. Why didn't they say so? That changes everything. This was kind of funny. Apparently, if you play guitar next to a matriarch in Arc Raiders, it dances.
Hey there.
Who knew? There you go. There you go. I love little touches like that. Isn't that funny? Isn't that great? I think that's great. Also, I made a little TikTok thing about this, but I just wanted to reaffirm it for you guys in case you didn't see that. So, excuse me, my goodness. Apparently, I did not sleep enough last night. It has been confirmed that in Arc Raiders, it does have matchmaking based off of your aggression. So, players who engage more in PvP tend to get match made with people that engage with PvP more than those who do not and play more peacefully and friendly. It's what we've suspected for a very long time. That's been like leaked and rumored and stuff, but now it's actually confirmed from the CEO that no, in fact, it is something that does happen. So there you go. There you go. It's confirmed. No longer a conspiracy theory. It's official. It's real. Okay. Okay, bookmarks. We went through that one, did that. Also, I just wanted to show this because this is crazy. Game Roll over on Twitter posted this. A new version of the GTA 6. A new version of the GTA 6 mapping project has been released. If you are not familiar with this, basically what these guys do, there's a whole community of them. They go into the trailers and the website screenshots and stuff. So all of these things that are posted here, they go into all of it. And then they go about trying to triangulate and match up camera angles, points of interests, big recognizable pieces of architecture and things. And then they match them up and build out what they see. So if they have one camera angle that shows, say, a mountain in the background up here, then what they can do is they can find another screenshot or piece of the trailer that has a slightly different angle showing the mountain in the distance. And so then they can do some math to roughly triangulate how far away they are, some basic trigonometry. And then they can figure out, okay, well, it's like that. And from this camera angle, we see these roads laid out here, and we see this island in the distance and a freeway in the distance there. And so they can start to piece this together using all of these different individual shots. And every couple of months, they get enough changes and overhauls that they think they're ready to share what they have. And that's what they've done here. So as you can see, this is the latest version of the map that they've created. And it's of course going to change and be different when we get the final game. The big thing that they're not sure of apparently is the northern sections of the map, because we've seen basically none of this in any of the trailers. So this could be way bigger. This could be way smaller. We just don't know. But as for other areas, such as the center pieces of Vice City, they feel pretty confident about these spots and how that's laid out. And again, the number of contributors are crazy. Here's the link to the Discord for the mapping community. So on this Discord, they go all over there. These are all the people credited with helping with it. But it's just absolutely madness. And you can see they have different elevations. They have different types of pavement, whether it's railways, alleys, borders, whatever. All of this is outlined. It's absolutely insane, the level of dedication. And funnily enough, they actually did this with Red Dead 2 back in the day. They've done this with a number of other games. And it's kind of shocking how close to the final map they actually get. It's like kind of scary, frankly, because you would think that it's going to be just like kind of close. No, dude. Sometimes they even have like exact down to the block exactly lined out. It's really, really cool. It's crazy. I'm not smart enough for it, but I mean, they've done it. So as you can see, basically it's supposed to be like the southern bit of Florida. So you have the Florida Keys effectively here, and then Miami and everything. Like it's effectively what they're doing. with Port Gellhorn. This one I don't think we've seen much about either. We've seen some snippets, but yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. I'm in for it. Bookmark it for release comparison. Hells yeah. They actually do in the final, like after the game launches, they'll do like comparisons to see what did we get right? What did we get wrong? Did something change? Because this is the other thing. Sometimes stuff changes in game development. So it could be that this is correct. Like one of the blocks that they show, this thing down here is correct today, or based on the trailers we got a year ago. But by the time the game launches, maybe they rearranged it. You never know. You never know. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy. It's pretty cool. And I always love seeing, people use their talents to do some crazy stuff. Speaking of crazy stuff, let me show you this, because I've wanted to look at this for a few days now, and I think that now is a good time. Yes, let me catch up on these real quick. Let's see. Sam, thank you for the super chat. I highly recommend Why You Don't Upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 by Raymond Cripps. It's awesome 7-minute video. I wish a lot of developers would watch it. Interesting. Yeah, I can pull that up. I'm not familiar with that, but we can check that out, see if it'd be a good fit. Thank you for that. Okay,
I recently made a
I think I got it here somewhere. I can pull it up. I pulled it up in another tab. I pulled up his page so we can check it out. Thank you for that suggestion. Thank you. Appreciate you. Okay. Let's look at this. So, new segment thing. So if you're not familiar, one of the most influential people in gaming history, especially back in the early days, was a guy named Peter Molyneux. Peter. Ooh, it's a vibe. That's like the tips link. I didn't know that was even still up. Thank you, Zeeks.
CX donated $5. LEGO is announcing smart bricks at the first ever CES keynote. It's not being live streamed.
Smart bricks. I feel like I've heard something about that. Interactive Lego electronic component for Lego sets featuring sensors, LEDs, and audio that react to movement and touch. Okay. Huh. Oh, they've been working on these for a while. Okay. Interesting. We'll have to check it out, because you know me, I love me some Lego stuff. We'll have to check that out. Thank you for that 5. Is that what Judas is made of? Yeah, exactly. That's why it took so long. He's been waiting for the official release. Okay. New segment thing. So Peter Molyneux is one of the like legends of the games industry. He's been around forever, and he's been attached to some of the biggest IP in gaming history. However, he's got a nasty habit of what is that thing that Todd does sometimes, where like you're talking about your game and then you say stuff that's going to be in it and then it's just not in lying. That's it. He does that a lot. And yeah, he gets himself in trouble because some of the stuff that he claimed was absolutely crazy. But I want to take you back with this video from the YouTube channel Slow Start. This video goes back, as you can see, it's titled Project Milo, the biggest lie Microsoft ever told. Basically, this is a time capsule of 2009. And it's absolutely crazy. This is not the first time in 2025, 2026, where we've gotten a push into like AI being the next frontier. Back in 2009, they tried to frame it as though they had just basically made a breakthrough into sentience and AGI and stuff. Like, it was absolutely crazy that people were just like, yeah, it looks real to me. Especially nowadays when we have LLMs and stuff, we can see how not real this actually is. But just watch it. Just check it out. Let's see what he has to say about Peter.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates, chairman of Microsoft. In this video, you're going to see the future.
All right, it's 2009.
pigs are flying, everything has this aesthetic, and Microsoft has just announced a groundbreaking new piece of tech at E3. Utilizing the latest advancements in motion capture, Project Natal, as it was initially named, was a new device for the Xbox that aimed to win audiences over with pure wow factor. The main goal of Natal was to bring families into the gaming equation by taking controllers out of it, and this resulted in an intuitive, get-up-and-play experience that made it easy for any demographic to play and enjoy.
I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, okay? At E3, they had a lot of people doing demos for this stuff, and this may come as a surprise to a lot of you. Games journalists don't tend to be the most athletic. And so it was quite funny to watch games journalists doing previews with the Kinect, where like they were getting gassed in 15 seconds and they're supposed to be playing like a soccer game or a skateboard game. And like, this is the most hilariously out of touch thing ever. When people come home from work, the last thing, like imagine you just, you've been working your ass off in retail, standing on hard concrete floors all day, talking to people, your back hurts, your feet hurt and everything. The last thing you want to do is be like, okay, time to relax with some Tony Hawk Pro Skater, you know? Like, that's the last thing you want to do. It's the last thing you want to do. The fact that anybody thought that's what people wanted to do in their free time is crazy. It's just insane. But that's what this era was. They thought that that was like revolutionary. You can get back home from work and kind of look like an idiot for like an hour before you get tired and you want to do something else. And frankly, a lot of people when they get home from work, they just want to grab the controller, sit on the couch and play. It was like the most bizarre thing ever that they thought that this was going to be the next big thing. It also, let's just be real, was basically a direct answer or attempt at an answer to the Wii. The Wii, which launched in 2006, was huge and it was sold predominantly on its like motion controls, which was very cool. It was very, very cool. But like everybody wanted their own piece of that. And so you had PlayStation doing what PlayStation Move or whatever. And then Xbox did Project Natal. It was a gimmick, gimmick through and through. And shocker, it didn't go well.
Up and play experience that made it easy for any demographic to play and enjoy. For 2009, it was pretty damn impressive, and in the eyes of many consumers, it made Sony and Nintendo's motion tech look kind of obsolete. But that night at E3...
Until people used it. I remember using the Wii and having fun with like the bowling game because you could actually like finally control the bowling and like you could get good at bowling. With Kinect, it felt like it was just a total crapshoot because it wasn't that accurate. It wasn't very good at what it was doing. And it was just worse than pretty much everything else just using a controller. It just wasn't very... It was a cool piece of tech in search of a solution or in search of a problem. It was a good solution in search of a problem that it could be a solution to. And they just kind of did it backwards. Instead of starting with a problem and trying to come up with an answer for it, they created a solution and an answer and then tried to find something that made it cool.
Microsoft would manage to continue the hype train. You see, after the unveiling of Project Natal, another speaker would take the stage to present a tech demo for Microsoft's new hardware.
I want to just say one thing to you, and that's the word interactive.
That's Peter Molyneux, game designer for the Fable series and former creative director at Microsoft. And what he's about to share with this audience at E3 will echo in eternity as one of the most intentionally deceitful unveilings in Microsoft's history.
And this is an important distinguishing thing, okay? I am more forgiving if a game dev says something is in their game and then they had to tweak it and shift it and like it just didn't work out. That's okay. That happens in game development all the time. The problem is that when you are like the head of a company or the director or whatever, you have, in my view, a fiduciary duty, an obligation to be responsible with what you say and how you say it. if you say this is going to be in our game and this is how it works, even if you think there's a chance that that could be misinterpreted, or maybe you're just being artsy with your language and you're exaggerating it to make the point, you have to clarify that. Otherwise it gets into misrepresentation because of your position as head of the company, right? So I think like when you're in this head position, you have to be more careful with your words than less careful. But what you're about to see is the opposite of that. The total opposite. Matthew, thank you for the super chat. Hey Luke, hope you and the fam are having a blessed start to 2026. I'm interested in starting to invest my own money in the stock market. What companies are you keeping an eye on? GTA and oil? I would not put money into oil right now. Not financial advice, but if I were, I think when you have a massive supply surge, it doesn't tend to do a whole lot for like rising oil prices. But beyond that, GTA, all of that stuff's priced in. So it's not like you buy Take-Two that you're going to make tons of money when GTA launches, unless it like totally crushes expectations, which expectations are already super, super high. So frankly, if I were you, I would just put it into index funds and forget about it. Short oil, dude. The thing is, like when all this stuff happened with Venezuela, you know what happened to the oil markets? They didn't move that much, and it's because they already priced in something like that happening. Like chances are, if you think of something happening, it's already been accounted for in the market. Let's be real, it's probably already been accounted for. They're way ahead of you. Yeah, instead invest in WWE champions. Yeah. Exactly.
This presentation,
dude, I'm sorry. Well, last thing, I saw the funniest clip of DSP. Somebody asked him, are you gonna save money, are you gonna invest money in the stock market? He said, no. Why would I waste money buying something in the stock market? Why would I waste money buying a stock? It's like, bro, this is the guy that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on mobile games, and he said buying stocks is wasting money. It's like, tell me you're gonna be perpetually broke without telling me that you're gonna be perpetually broke. You know, it's absolutely insane. Anyway, continuing. Sorry. So Peter Molyneux, again, I think you have a fiduciary duty to be cautious with your words when you're in a position of leadership like this. Instead, he's doing the opposite.
Deceitful unveilings in Microsoft's history. In his presentation, Peter claims to have developed an experience with Natal that he thinks will fulfill every gamer's lifelong dream: to build an innocent yet intimate relationship with a 10-year-old boy. Oh, wait, what? Oh, you guys just wanted Fable 3? Oh, shit. In the demo, Peter introduces us to Project Milo, a game about a boy that can supposedly see you, hear you, and actually get to know you through the screen.
Basically a tech demo, trying to showcase like AI advancements in the game engine or whatever, okay? That's what they were trying to do.
Hi, I'm Milo. How you doing?
Hi Claire, you okay?
By making use of the Natal hardware, Peter demonstrates how players can seemingly interact with Milo through free-flowing conversations, giving the impression that the character on screen is somehow capable of independent thought.
Here we're seeing Claire being recognized, and the emotion in Claire's voice being recognized, and that emotion reflecting in Milo's face. Those are all being seen for the first time.
That, I'm pretty sure that's a lie. Bad Peter. That, I mean, how else do you interpret that? It was not the first time. That's a lie. But this was used to hype up the Kinect because it was a convenient lie, you know? This was used to hype up the Kinect because it was like, oh, now you can have games where the NPC can see you and talk to you and interact with you. Turns out the entire thing is like carefully scripted, as were pretty much all of the Kinect demos, but you're going to see even worse examples.
At first glance, it looks quite impressive. Yet the way Peter describes it, you'd think his team had just stumbled on the means to creating sentient AI. And something tells me that's kind of what he wanted us to think. What's worse is that one look back at the comments section for this presentation proves that we bought right in. Of course, there were skeptics, but
I wouldn't get too worked about this just yet. Peter Molyneux is incredible at hyping people up for his inevitable mediocre final product.
But for the majority, people really thought Milo was a game changer.
Yeah, look at these. Oh my gosh, how incredible. I mean, it is amazing. Really, it is. Thank you for putting this up. That is wildly impressive. This is truly a step into new generation. You imagine how long the games might take to make if they need to make all the characters act in a way like it could take forever? I'm freaking out a little. Most impressive. This is beyond belief. It just doesn't seem possible. It's almost like it's not possible. I can't even begin to imagine the amount of time it must took to create every possible outcome from what everyone or what someone says. Because at the time, again, this is pre-LLMs, like where you're not using neural nets. This is all manually coding in responses for specific statements and stuff. It's like early Siri, if you remember that. Siri, you could ask to like start an alarm for you or set up an alarm. You had to say it in a very particular way because that was the only combination of words they had programmed to react to that. There was no like understanding through neural nets, everything. It just didn't work that way. Anyway, continuing.
Changer. Literally. I mean, audiences were more excited for this game than the actual hardware it was demoed for. Not to mention the potential this kind of AI had for countless genres in the industry. The problem? It was all complete bullshit. The demo was fake, the actor was acting, and Peter was essentially lying through his teeth. Or was he? No, I'm just kidding, he was. He totally was. And this was most certainly not the first time either. You see, Peter was notorious throughout the industry for overpromising, exaggerating, and flat out lying about upcoming games. I mean, you could probably score the rest of this video with the flight of the bumblebee, and it would match the tone for the level of chaos this man has caused. But Milo? Milo was his magnum opus, a lie so deceitful that it crossed the point of outrage to just actually being kind of impressive. By utilizing his arsenal of clever word choice alongside demo footage that mainly consisted of smoke and mirrors, Peter managed to convince an entire generation of gamers that he had developed a technology 50 years ahead of its time. What would ensue was a roller coaster ride of PR shenanigans, miscommunication, backpedaling, and deception that would ultimately amount to nothing. But to understand how this happened in the first place, we need to take a look back at the man himself. Peter.
Like, I think again, I with Peter, I've always gotten kind of conflicting feelings, and I want to know what your feelings are after we go through this. But I think there are some creatives, like Sean Murray is an example of one, who's passionate about his game. And when you go back through a lot of like the No Man's Sky stuff, he was saying stuff that they wanted to have in the game that was cut because of time constraints and money constraints, and the team just couldn't get it done. Eventually they went back in, added pretty much all of that stuff to the game as it sits today. But when I go back through those clips of No Man's Sky and the press conferences and the interviews and stuff that he did, I don't get the feeling that he was like trying to misrepresent the game intentionally to get sales. I think he just got in way over his head, and he was passionate about what they were building, but he didn't understand the weight that comes with being in that position of leadership, and that you need to be very careful with what you say is and is not going to be in the game. You have to be very precise with what you say. Yeah, otherwise you end up with like that video from Game Trailers. Yeah, that's a classic, dude. But with Peter, I've gotten conflicting feelings where at times I feel like he is just a passionate game developer who gets himself in way too deep and overhypes things because he's just excited. But then other things I see were like saying that's the first time they had seen that reaction from Milo. That is just a lie. That is not true. Because at this time, the only way you could do that stuff was by coding in specific responses to specific inputs. There was no dynamic anything. And so when he says it's the first time they saw that reaction, that is a lie. That's a lie. And so what am I supposed to say?
Oh, Peter. After founding Bullfrog Productions in 1987, Peter Molyneux would leap headfirst into game design with a focus on population sims. You know the ones, those top-down games with disembodied hands that control everything in the game world? These concepts were fascinating to Peter, and ultimately became the stage that allowed his knack for ideation to really shine. What if you were the owner of a theme park, the keeper of a dungeon, or the deity in charge of an entire island? Peter's games put the player in complete control, which ultimately helped redefine the scope for what games could actually be about, and usually with outstanding results. Throughout his time at Bullfrog, Peter would make leaps and bounds within the simulation space, known well for his early adoption of artificial intelligence and his invention of the God game genre. This would eventually lead their longtime publisher Electronic Arts to acquire the company in 1995. Unfortunately, EA's acquisition changed the way Bullfrog developed games, and Peter, who was unsatisfied with the changes, left the studio in '97 to pursue a new venture. This would ultimately lead Molyneux to found Lionhead Studios, with a handful of other ex-Bullfroggers. From there, Peter would spend a sizable chunk of money from the Bullfrog deal, investing over $6 million into Lionhead's first game. After 3 years of development, Black and White released in March of 2001 and was met with widespread critical acclaim. The game was praised heavily for its accomplishments in artificial intelligence, even appearing in the 2003 Guinness World Records for having the most intelligent being in a game.
Jesus. Again, because we're in the modern day, we got to specify and clarify. Artificial intelligence circa early 2000s, late 90s is not the same thing that we have today. They literally just mean like NPC AI and behaviors and stuff. Okay. So nowadays it's a buzzword that comes with certain connotations. At the time it meant other things, certainly. But just to be clear, that's what's being said. Because every time we talk about AI anything, even in the context of like NPC AI, people are like, what? Back then they even had it? I don't remember ChatGPT back then. And it's like, guys, please, come on. It's 30 years ago. Yes, things were different. Anyway.
These accomplishments were what ultimately solidified Peter's belief in AI, inspiring him and his team to pursue further research on the topic. So, that same year, Peter would officially launch a research project. The goal of their efforts was to develop a game that was smarter than anything ever seen on the market. A game that, years from now, would eventually become Milo. But until then, Peter would codename his venture Project Dimitri. You see, Peter loved codenames and had a quirk of introducing and changing these names every time he spoke to journalists. Throughout his career, there was Project Dimitri, Project Ego, Project X, Project Milo. I mean, for a guy that couldn't keep his mouth shut in front of journalists, he sure did love secrets. And this problem had...
Maybe we should start doing that, Jacob. Every time we talk about a video, it's like, oh, project. It's like, we're going to go to Jeff's show. We're going to go to Jeff Keighley's show in Los Angeles in June. Going to go to his spot. Project G spot. Sorry, I cracked myself up. We could do that plenty of times. Project Gamescom. Project G. Game Awards. Project G squared. We got options. It's a lot of G's. We'll brainstorm it. We'll figure it out.
Certainly become evident throughout his career. Up until this point, Peter had already...
Yeah, exactly. We post a video in June. We can't find it. We can't find it. It's gone. I'm not even convinced it's real.
begun developing a reputation for himself as somewhat of an overpromiser, notorious for making outlandish claims about features that would be included in upcoming games. Peter would later confess to even making up new features on the spot just to...
I could name at least 10 features in games that I've made up to stop journalists going to sleep, and I really apologize to the team for that. It's hard to see that quote and not interpret that as though you're just a liar. You know, like you just said, I could name at least 10 features in games that I've made up to stop journalists going to sleep. And I really apologize to the team for that. Like when you are just casually making stuff up to get journalists excited, I think that just just makes you a liar. You know, like just a compulsive liar.
Keep journalists interested. And that problem would only grow worse when his company released Fable in 2004. To build excitement for the game, Peter would make all sorts of false promises for Fable, which ultimately ended up hurting the game's reception among fans. To give you a better idea of what I mean, here's just a few. 1. Peter said that Fable would be a completely open world with 0 invisible boundaries. 2. Peter said you could have children who take over as the playable character if you die in the game. 3. Peter said you could plant a tree and watch it grow to fruition in real time. And so on. Of course, none of these promises actually made it into the game, and probably caused most of his development team to slam their heads through drywall. The worst part was that Fable was a good game that just happened to fall flat because of heightened expectations. Some may write this behavior off as a passionate game designer getting overly excited about his game.
I don't know. That previous quote, though, I kind of want to look it up because I want to see if I can find it. Because if this quote is real, like it's really hard.
Reception among sorts of thousands.
Where is it?
And that up
Yeah,
new features
here.
on the
I can name at least 10 features in games that I've made up. I could name at least 10 different features in games that I've made up. Does he have a source for that? He does. Notable sources. He has a bunch in here. This gives me a lot more confidence, the fact that he's sourcing all this. No, he doesn't say it there. Doesn't say it there. Doesn't say it there. I could actually show you a game physically working. Project Dimitri. Not there. Not there. Not there. Not there. Oh, this one's closed. Okay, so I can't find in his sources the quote, that quote. But if we just say, because it's very specific, if we just say that he did say that, like that's kind of insane. This is hard to excuse. To just casually mention that you're lying to journalists intentionally to get them excited. Like that's really hard to just excuse, you know?
write this behavior off as a passionate game
Yeah, it's probably from like a video interview or something if it's not written out like that. But again, it's such a specific quote. I find it unlikely that he just like made it up, especially when he's sourcing everything else. So I would like to see like the original source, but I think it goes in line with a lot of the other stuff that's going on. So it's very believable that he said that.
game designer getting overly excited about his game. But no matter how you twist it, Peter's big mouth was
Who's that?
just plain unprofessional, and it was
I don't think it
starting
is.
to
For a second, it looked like Ralph.
affect his reputation. After Microsoft acquired Lionhead in 2005, the suits would attempt to remedy this issue by keeping a PR team around Peter at all times. This was done to ensure he didn't get himself into any more trouble.
That's so
Yeah,
funny.
these nasty PR policemen that are all around me as we speak.
I'm not allowed to talk about the PR guards that are standing at the back, shooting daggers with their eyes.
Obviously, I can't answer questions like that because I would get killed for if I announced. Yeah.
By now,
Dude, so Xbox had to step in, or EA rather, had to step in and be like, bro, shut up. Shut up. You're hurting your game. And this is the thing that always drives me crazy with like the overpromising, is that it hurts your game long term. Like, yes, you'll get some hype in the short term, but like when you hype it up and make it out that like Starfield is going to basically be Skyrim but in space, like that level of handcrafted experience with exploration and adventuring, but with 1,000 planets, that raises the expectations. And so if you don't live up to that standard, it's going to crash and burn. It's going to be like miserable. You know, it's you can't do that because the disappointment will do a lot more damage than good.
Now you're probably wondering, well, how does Milo fit into all this? And you'd be right to ask that. Well, sometime in 2007, after many years of experimenting, Peter had finally found some direction for Project Dimitri. For roughly 6 years, Lionhead's research into AI game systems had never actually resulted in a full game.
Let's see. Nicholas says he said he would I can't read. He said that he would think up features on the fly in interviews, and his team would be aghast at him, promising something they didn't even know was possible. Yeah, like he's excited, and so he just is like brainstorming in an interview. But like at some point, I think when you have a responsibility and then you're doing irresponsible things like that, like you're an adult. You run out of excuses. You know, like you're an adult, you run this company, and I get it that you're excited brainstorming ideas, presenting them as if they're in the game, but that is irresponsible and it harms your employees and everything. Like I lose sympathy even with that, because I'm like, I get it, you're excited and you're like thinking up things that you could do, but you know, as a game developer, you can't do everything. So you can't just do that. You know, you can't just go out there and say stuff and then get in trouble and then act like, well, I was having fun. Like you just can't do that. You're an adult.
Sure, many of their advancements made it into other games as features, but nothing quite managed to harness all of their efforts into one single title. And now, with pressure from Microsoft to actually return results, Peter needed to finally turn his passion project into profit. So, in 2007, Peter pitched a brand new idea to his associate Gary Carr, who was then an executive producer at Microsoft. This new idea would build upon everything the team had worked on with Project Dimitri, but under a completely new name. You see, by 2007, codename Dimitri was kind of a bad word around Lionhead, and had become somewhat synonymous with failure. So, in order to improve morale regarding the project, Peter would codename their new venture Milo, named after the game's protagonist. Development for Project Milo officially began in 2007 as a sort of simulation centered around the life of one individual. This, of course, took Peter's usual formula of population-based sims and flipped it on its head. Instead of a simulation involving multiple people, Project Milo would be about just one, a boy, and your actions in the game would determine who Milo grew up to be. It was basically a glorified parenting sim, except instead of taking the role of an actual parent, you were more of a friend, or mentor, or slave? I mean, the first prototype literally just had you doing Milo's chores, and from what I've learned, it didn't sound incredibly impressive. But, according to Peter, Project Milo was utilizing an impressive display of AI technology, combining advancements made with Project Dimitri alongside Microsoft's own research. It was something Peter felt incredibly proud of, leading him to suggest in an interview that their achievements could eventually find them on the front page of Science magazine. An important thing to note,
it's a big claim. It's big. Okay.
Though, was that until this point, Project Milo was strictly being developed for use with a controller, and there was absolutely no knowledge of Project Natal up to this point. That was until
I'm sorry, every time I see a Kinect demo, I'm like, they spent millions on this, dude. This, like, look at this clip.
Absolutely no knowledge of Project.
They spent millions. They went and spent millions at E3 to do demos of this, of like, yeah, just whack the balls. Like, they thought that was the future, dude. 2009 was crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. Ridiculous.
Natal up to this point. That was until 2008, when one of Peter's associates at Microsoft spilled the beans. Turns out, a group of Microsoft engineers had been working closely with an Israeli tech company to bring motion sensing hardware to the Xbox 360. This technology was first introduced to the world at the 2006 Game Developers Conference by a company called PrimeSense.
Back in 2006.
At the convention, PrimeSense revealed...
I will say, I miss old school logos, dude. Like this weird face logo. PrimeSense. It's just a P and an S with like eyes in it. But I miss these kinds of logos. Now everything's a triangle or a cube or like a weird piss. Like I miss these kinds of logos. These were goated, man. I hope we have a renaissance of company branding, because right now it's so soulless and corporate and dystopian. I love these weird, cringy ones.
A revolutionary new device capable of sensing and mapping human bodies in real time. At this point, the tech was still in its early stages, but it showed promise, which was illustrated through PrimeSense's earliest concept videos. And while many of these demonstrations
But you see what I mean? Like, who, when navigating a menu, wants to do this? Like, it can work in certain instances. For example, like the Apple Vision Pro, they have the eye tracking, so you look at a button on screen, or like in this, you look at the list of icons and items. You look at it, and then you just tap your fingers, and then whichever one you're looking at is selected. That works. But when it's purely motion tracked and it's like, nope, it's not sensitive enough. Okay, hold on. Okay, we're nope, wrong. You know, it's quite frustrating. It's quite annoying. It's quite annoying. But anyway, but yeah, I think that again, this is really cool tech, but it was searching for a problem it could solve instead of being an answer to a problem. So it's really impressive, but it just didn't make sense for most uses.
And while many of these demonstrations looked impressive, the production quality was a bit more akin to a Tim and Eric sketch.
So, what was the name of that movie you told me you wanted to see the other day?
I'm sorry. Also, that like 2008 computer sound effect, bleep bloop bleep bloop bloop, whenever you press a button, it's so like, this is a deep cut, it's so Agent Cody Banks, you know, it's like Disney Channel sound effects. It's so stupid, but at the time I'm sure it was like, that's so cool, that's futuristic. But now we hear it, it's like, dude, we got the Internet Explorer back buttons and everything, man. Wow, there you go, there you go. Continuing.
How about that one?
Bleep bloop. Select pizza slice. Women's fashion.
Oh.
Hi, how are you? Hey, Greg, how you doing? I'm gonna have to call you back tomorrow night. Okay, bye. Good night.
Yeah, can we not? I'm sitting with my wife, bleep blooping. Show some damn respect.
As cheesy as these demos were, the concept most certainly caught the attention of Microsoft, and especially Peter Molyneux. This would lead Peter to completely rework Project Milo to incorporate this new hardware,
of course
which
it did.
Microsoft had codenamed Project Natal. Peter now envisioned a game where players could actually speak to Milo through Natal, and Milo would, ideally, respond back. Microsoft ran with it, and for roughly the next year and a half, Lionhead would double the size of their team to help steer Project Milo in this new direction. This would set off the chain of events that would eventually lead to Peter's infamous demo at E3-09. Contrary to popular belief, Project Milo was not entirely a hoax. As misleading as it was, the video Peter showed at E3 was technically not a complete fabrication, because Lionhead was really working on a real game. And after the incorporation of Project Natal, Milo...
Sorry, again, all the clips of the... all the clips of the Kinect stuff. How did she even move her body like
really
that?
Working on a real game.
Like,
and after the incorporation of Project
seriously,
Natal,
this poor woman. Yeah, go up on stage and just do this, dude. Just whatever. That's good enough. People will see this and go, I want one. Yeah, that looks awesome. Yeah. 2009 party time all the time, dude. At least this was like entertaining. A lot of the, I mean, you better believe at the Xbox showcase this summer, there's going to be a lot of stuff about like AI and stuff that they're going to talk about, and it's all going to be, yeah, so now we can experience games. You can talk directly to your console. So all 15 of you that still have an Xbox plugged in, you can actually talk to your console and explain why you're selling it directly to the console.
Milo was actually capable of a handful of impressive feats. He could understand over 500 unique words, recognize the color of your clothing, and even interpret the tone of your voice. This was all real technology that the Lionhead team was working on, and it was all really being done with Project Natal. The problem? It was still pretty janky. Developers who worked on the project admitted that it was a challenge to demonstrate the game live, and players could very easily break the illusion of Milo's sentience if they wished to do so. What made this situation more dire was the fact that later that year, Project Milo was set to be unveiled at E3 alongside Natal. So, how would they do it? Well, they'd stage it, of course. I mean, was it really that big of a lie as long as the game was actually being developed? Well, yes, especially when you consider the way the demo was fabricated. Just a few weeks before E3, Lionhead would hire an actress to help stage their presentation, and worked with a film crew to produce it. And look,
okay, what was the note?
Their presentation, and worked with a film crew to...
No, these are images of motion capture used in game and not actual footage of the staged presentation. Okay, good clarification. Thank you for the 20, Cindy. Did you see the interview IGN did with Eddie Burback? Let me see. No, I did not. Experience being guest of a large cinematic influences. Interesting. No, I've not seen it yet. I haven't pulled up in another tab though. Don't you worry. We can check it out. See what's happening. Thank you for the 20. That's ridiculously generous. Thank you. My goodness. Appreciate you.
Produce it. And look, staging certain aspects of a technology for the purposes of ensuring a smooth presentation is maybe arguably one.
Honestly, the more I think about this point, the more I realize there's literally 0 instances where this would be acceptable.
The purposes of ensuring a smooth presentation is maybe arguably one thing. But the creative liberties that were taken with Milo's demo made implications that grossly exaggerated the capabilities of the actual product.
Yeah.
And this was the factor that ultimately landed Peter in such hot water.
Well, and it's often what you say and what you don't say are just as potent. You know, like you remember back at the Luke, don't mention a BGS game in a segment, challenge level impossible. But you remember in the Starfield gameplay demo, let's see, gameplay reveal, sorry. In all of the little snippets, they were very intentional to cut right before and between instances of space travel, because they didn't want to show the like load screens as you went between environments and stuff. So they were very intentional not to show that and to cover it up and to cut between them. They didn't technically lie about anything. They just didn't show you, you know, or what they showed and what they didn't show created an idea in people's heads of what the game was going to be like. They saw no load screens, so they concluded there must be no load screens when traveling like that. Or at least like they are probably very, very minimal, you know? But I think that that's the crucial thing, is that sometimes what you show and what you don't show is just as important. And in this case, like I think with Project Milo, it was a similar thing where they showed, you know, some things that when you looked at it and focused on it, it really heavily suggested that something was it was different than it actually was, you know.
Now, let's jump back to E3 2009, where Microsoft has just finished unveiling...
Is a mission just as bad? I think it can be. Libo mission. I mean, if we're talking about the effects, it can be just as bad, if not more so. Like, if GTA 6 comes out, and let's say there's no flying planes or helicopters or anything, technically, they never showed you footage of the player flying in a plane in any of the trailers so far. They showed you driving a car. They showed a plane flying in the sky, but they never showed you flying the plane. So they technically never lied or anything. They just didn't show you that. And, never mentioned it, never discussed it or anything. And that led you to to believing it would be the same as it was, and so you ended up being sort of deceived when you bought the game and you weren't able to fly, even though they didn't technically do anything wrong, you know. But it can be the potency can be just
Project Natal for the first time. The tech is impressive and kind of steals the show from Sony, who unveiled a wand-based version of their own motion tech the same night.
That racket is actually in the virtual world. It's in Anton's hand.
Next to take the stage is Peter, who I can only assume is engaged in some sort of weird pre-show ritual behind the curtains, very a la Joker. I mean, you gotta be a little crazy.
I'm sorry, I love the idea of him doing like a dance thing before going on stage. You know what? I'm gonna choose to believe that that's what Todd does before every show. That's my guess. That's what I'm saying. Lock it in. Before Todd goes on stage, he has a whole routine of putting on his leather jacket, doing the dance, punching time clock boxes, whatever you call those. Yeah, I think that's fair.
To pull a stunt like this in front of the entire gaming industry. So Peter makes his presentation and introduces Milo to the world.
Hi, Milo. How you doing?
Hi, Claire. You okay?
Actually, I'm a bit nervous.
You? Nervous? I don't believe it.
On first
see what I mean? The like crazy sound effects.
watch, the video actually looks pretty convincing. But as we come to find, Peter is using a mix of both deceptive gameplay footage and clever language to mislead the viewer. The interactions presented in the video make the implication that players can have complex, free-flowing conversations with Milo, and can come to form deep personal relationships with him.
Listen, I was thinking today you should let me beat you at football again. That is if you finished your homework. You have finished your school project.
What happened there is that Claire knew Milo so well, she knew when he was worried about something.
Of course, as you can probably tell, this entire interaction is scripted. There's even moments in the video where Milo appears to remember seemingly impressive details about the actress's personal life.
Science fiction is not even written about.
Don't forget your mum's birthday.
Did you catch that? Apparently Milo just on a whim remembered Claire's mom's birthday, which once again tries to reinforce the idea that the two actually have a relationship. Later on in the video, Milo leads Claire to a pond where Natal's capabilities for motion capture are shown off a little bit. Yet, for some reason, even a basic minigame like this was faked. Upon closer inspection, you'll realize that Claire's movements are not entirely in sync with her reflection. For one reason or another, this entirely pre-rendered scene has the actress superimposed into the reflection of the water, forcing Claire to memorize her original movements and attempt to perform them in sync with the footage on screen.
You can even see her hesitating to put her hands out until the reflected version does it.
Original movement imposed
like
into
right
the
here.
reflection
Look,
of the water,
with both hands.
forcing Claire to memorize her original movements
And then she goes.
attempt to perform them in sync with the footage on screen. This obviously leads to errors, and quickly becomes Exhibit A for many skeptics trying to debunk the video later on. But what proves to be one of the most glaring oversights of the whole video is actually a matter of perspective. Let me explain. When you're viewing any sort of portrait from your viewpoint, the subject of your gaze appears to follow you wherever you move around the room. It's why paintings like the Mona Lisa seem to always be watching you even if you change where you're standing. So why isn't Milo doing that? Yes, he's looking at Claire, but we're not looking from Claire's perspective. This is of course once again because the entire video was fabricated. When the Lionhead team was putting together this demo, they found that Milo's natural line of vision would be directed towards the camera, ultimately ruining the immersion they wanted to create between Milo and Claire. So they faked it, and in a blatant rejection for the laws of perspective, the team re-rigged Milo to look slightly to the side to look at Claire. As you can probably tell so far, practically none of the aspects of the video were actually real. Shocker, I know.
That one I'm less peeved about, because like they're trying to communicate that he's reacting to her. So that one I feel less deceived by. I feel like that's not that big of a deal, but I can see how some people are like, see, they faked it. I guess what I've assumed that the whole thing is fake. That seems like a small offense to me, you know, because I'm like, no, like all the other stuff being faked and them acting like it's the second coming is more of a big deal. But yeah, it's obviously fake.
And even if certain footage represented aspects of the game that did work, it was far easier to just fake the whole thing. For example, towards the end of the presentation, Claire would draw a picture of a fish and hold it up to the camera. Milo would then supposedly pull the image into the game world and look at it himself. And funnily enough, this tech actually did work in a live demo setting. Turns out Milo had an incredible knack for recognizing drawings through the Natal camera, and even learned to identify specific objects through machine learning.
Cool.
It was actually one of the things Milo was best at, and there was even talk of improving the tech so that Milo could learn to identify new drawings as you showed them to him. Of course, the reins were pulled back on this to avoid making Milo an expert on identifying crudely drawn penises. But the take home here is that it did actually work.
You drew it again? Why did you draw it again? Please stop drawing penises, please.
So, in summary, what Peter essentially showed the audience that night was a demo of a game that did technically exist, but the format in which they chose to present that game took way more creative liberties than it ever should have. And what did that result in? Possibly the most misled outpouring of enthusiasm a game has ever seen, apart from a few other titles. People were losing their minds about this game. I mean, if Milo was really as true to life as Peter had claimed, then this would have massive implications not only for gaming itself, but technology as a whole. If only it were true. Later that night, after the E3 press conference, a select group of journalists were picked to actually meet Milo and demo the project for themselves. And this is where things started to take a bit of a turn. While the demo was impressive, many playtesters would quickly come to see through the smoke and mirror tricks used to give Milo the illusion of sentience. For example, Milo could understand words, but only certain ones, and those words had to be given within the correct context to be understood in the first place. If you asked Milo something yourself and he didn't understand, his code would prompt him to either politely nod or shake his head, which made many attempts at communication just kind of fall flat.
Milo, what time is it? Milo, what's the weather like? I can see how that would be kind of underwhelming. Oh yeah, the future of gaming.
If you tried to tell him a joke, sometimes Milo could read the tone of your voice and interpret it as such, emitting a laugh. Of course, Milo didn't actually get the joke and wouldn't comment on it in any way, but it was part of the illusion the game tried to convey. Most journalists remarked on how if you played Milo by the rules, you could actually have half-decent conversations with him. But any, and I mean any attempt to go off script would immediately poke holes in the illusion. But the journalists' impressions didn't really do much to quell the excitement for the game. Just like any hype train, once it gets going, it's kind of hard to stop. So, E3 2009 ends, and Microsoft is swarmed with enthusiastic journalists chomping at the bit for details about Milo and Project Natal. And the excitement is palpable.
So tell me more about your role with Project Natal.
So I'm essentially the technical director for the technologies that you saw. So from our perspective, the inspiration really was, could we actually incorporate the human into...
She could at least pretend to be interested. Sorry, that's funny. Just immediately checking out.
the gameplay so that we could create a system.
Wait, I think I recognize her though. Is that what did she used to work with, like Rooster Teeth and The No? Do you remember that show like 10 years ago? Rooster Teeth? I can't remember her name. I haven't seen her in ages, but I remember, yeah, that is her. Okay. It's like she looks familiar, I think, but it's been Ashley Jenkins. Yes. Ashley Jenkins from The No. Dude, that's a throwback. I wonder where she's at now. Because I recognize her from The No. Jenkins, The No. Yeah. 11 years ago.
For great tasting.
After all, Rooster Teeth created
Yeah.
Red vs. Blue, the longest running series on the internet. Ruby, the anime inspired.
Dude, I used to watch The No so much. It was like my go-to thing. Now, I don't think it like exists at all. Yeah, last video 2 years ago. Yeah, the whole thing is they did like a podcasty thing, but all of the original cast left, and yeah, it just didn't work anymore. Anyway, sorry. I was like, I think I recognize her. That's a throwback. That's a throwback.
Whereby,
Of course, Peter does a few interviews as well, and you can rest assured his PR team is standing just outside the frame.
Do you think they just have like a water gun, and whenever he starts to say something he doesn't, like he shouldn't, they just spray him? It reminds me again, I've told you guys the story before, but when we went to the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora like preview thing, I got to do a little interview with the gameplay director, who ended up being one of the gameplay directors for Star Wars Outlaws as well. But when I was doing an interview with him, I asked him, like, what do you think is like the defining gameplay system that you want people to pay attention to, blah, blah, blah. Makes sense to ask the gameplay director that, right? But the PR guy, their official PR guy, was behind me. I think he was like a Disney PR guy, so like hardcore. He's standing behind me, like over there. So I'm sitting here interviewing the guy. The Disney PR guy is behind me. I can't see him. But I noticed that the gameplay director was like looking behind me. He's like kind of hemming and hawing. And then he's like, the Ekron, flying the Ekron really is immersive and really cool. I'm really excited for people to see that. That's going to be really cool. I was like, okay, it's a fine answer. Not what I thought, but okay. And after the fact, Jacob told me, he's like, you saw what the PR guy was doing, right? I was like, no. He's like, the PR guy was behind you. And when you asked what gameplay feature, the PR guy just went. He's like, the Ekron, flying the Ekron. And so like he was literally just looking to the PR guy to be like, what am I supposed to say? What do you want me to say? They won't piss you off. But like that's what kind of drives me crazy about some of these types of events is I'm like, hey, if they're only going to say what the PR guy wants them to say, just have the PR guy do the interview, you know? Like why are we doing this weird thing where I'm talking to him, but he's got to see what you allow him to say, you know? It's just stupid. But with this, it's kind of, I get it. With Peter, you got to have him on a tight leash. Otherwise he's just going to say all sorts of insane stuff.
Well, I could, you know what? I would love to tell you that. I could completely tell you. I could go through the story. There's, an amazing story. But I have given myself a rule that I will not talk about things unless I can show them. But it is.
I will not talk about things unless I can show them. That's how it should be. You think they'd get mad at you if you called them out? Well, I don't know if it's anything to like call out. I've like, to be clear, when they've asked like feedback on the event, because most of these events they'll ask you afterwards, like, what could we do better? I did tell them, and I tell most places that we do previews for similar things. I'm like, open the door for communication. Let us talk to the devs. One of the most genuinely cool things was when we went to the Bungie event for Marathon, we got to have lunch with the devs, and they spoke very openly. It's why the game was revealed to be like not ready, because they were able to say very openly, yeah, we don't have ranked mode ready. Yeah, we don't have this ready. Yeah, we just put this together. We're not going to do this because we're worried it's going to be toxic. Like that allowed us to provide feedback. They delayed the game and now it's going to be way better at launch because of it. But it's because they opened that door for communication. But some places, they just don't do that. If you have a Disney involved project, they're not doing that. It is locked TF down. And I get it. They want to protect their IP, but like, damn, dude. Like, what are we doing? You know? It's not getting better. Oh, dude, if those gameplay update videos they shared, I think it looks way better. Is it enough to be like the biggest game of the year? Probably not, but I think it looks way better. Like way better. Let's see. Compose, thank you for the 5. Hey Luke, big fan. Has been any news on the new game Black Myth I can't read. Black Myth Zongkui and the Black Myth Wukong DLC? No news. We don't know. So I don't know. Maybe this summer we hear something, but they probably are going to take some time. They got all the money in the world, so they can take their time with it for sure.
It's definitely a game. Things unless I can show them, but it is definitely a game.
When asked
Confirmed.
if players can expect a release date for Project Milo, Peter ensures that development is in full swing, and while a release date cannot be given, the game is most certainly expected to be brought to market. Yet strangely enough, that would be the last time we'd hear of Milo for a very long time.
No, Milo, no.
The following year, E3
It's going to be like 13, 14 by the time we play.
2010 would come and go without so much as a word from Milo, and fans definitely had some questions. But this time, they got different answers.
He's, you know, the Milo project was something that
2010
Lionhead Studios in their labs had developed, and obviously that's a tech demo and technology that continues to exist. But right now, it's not a game that we're planning to bring to market.
It's a thing that definitely exists.
That continues to exist, but right now, it's not a game that we're planning to bring to market.
That was Aaron Greenberg, a PR executive for Microsoft, who made that statement sometime in 2010. Shortly after that, Peter would go on record to quite condescendingly denounce Aaron's statements.
Poor Aaron Greenberg. He's on the PR team. He hasn't seen it since last year. So he came with this stock answer that Milo is alive and well and living in Guildford, but it's still a tech demo. I feel sorry for him. He hasn't seen the game since last year. If I had spent time with him and showed him the game recently, he'd know what was going on. All that technology that we showed at E3 last year actually does work, he promised. I've seen it. It works, Peter, honestly.
It was a weird era in the game's development where, depending on who you asked at Microsoft, your answer on Project Milo was completely different. Behind the scenes, Peter was in a sort of power struggle with the higher-ups at Microsoft. After roughly 3 years in development, Project Milo, now called Milo and Kate...
To be clear, in 2010 years, 3 years of development is like 8 nowadays. Like 3 years of development was a long time. Bear in mind, they made like Skyrim in 3 years, which is crazy. But most of those big games from that era were being pumped out in like just a matter of a few years. I think wasn't the first Uncharted, I think was 2007. The second Uncharted was 2009. I think. Uncharted 3 was 2012, maybe 2011, 2012, and then Last of Us was 2013. Like they used to pump these games out pretty quick, which is why it's all the more insane that nowadays it takes 2 or 3 times as long and you get half the game for it. But anyway,
was failing to meet the expectations.
I'm being sassy. Obviously, it's not half the game. I'm sorry. I'm just bitter that I have to wait so long for video games because I'm a spoiled gamer. Sorry. I'm being immature.
Microsoft had in place for the title. And it definitely didn't help that Peter had wildly raised those expectations back in 2009.
Damn it, Peter.
Worse still, Microsoft had significantly pulled back on Project Natal's hardware capabilities, attempting to cut costs by downgrading the device's processor, which subsequently narrowed the scope for Project Milo.
It also was just something people didn't really want. We've looked at the disastrous launch of the Xbox One on stream before, and with that, like when they first announced it and they were pushing the Xbox One in like circa 2013, the big scandal was that they were forcing people to buy the Kinect with it. Like they would put it in the box and you had to buy it with the console. And they were asked, like there's a famous clip of Jeff Keighley asking, like, can people buy it just with the Xbox or do they have to have the Kinect too? And the Xbox people are like, no, I mean, we're really proud of the technology and we're going to be selling them together. They're going to be in the same box. It's because nobody wanted it, so they had to put it in there to like bundle it away. They just had to put it in there because nobody would buy it otherwise. And it was a bit of an oopsie. Because everybody's like, okay, bet. I'll go buy a PS4, you know?
Fast forward to mid-2010, and fans are wondering when and if they'll ever get an update on Milo's development. And finally, after over a year of anticipation, Peter would eventually break his silence.
I'm sorry, he's just the most 2009 person I've ever seen in my life. Look at that. Because tonight will be the night that I will fall for you. Dude, flipped up the collar of the polo too. Jacob, I think for Summer Games Fest, we need to go dressed as if we're in 2009. I think we're dressing like this. I think this is what we're doing. I think it's what we must do. I don't know what else, what other option we have, frankly. Do you think this strap is for a satchel or a guitar? The fact that I can't tell says a lot.
Finally, after over a year of anticipation, Peter would eventually break his silence on the project. This update would come in the form of a TED Talk, which was already a really, really bad sign. If Microsoft actually had realistic plans to release Milo, they would have announced it at E3 2010 earlier that year. But clearly the game's release had reached a level of uncertainty that could no longer justify a feature at the event. So instead, Peter opts to quietly demo the game at TED Global, in what could be seen as one of the most egregious attempts at backpedaling I have ever seen.
Let's see it.
What Peter demonstrates to the crowd at TED Global is almost a completely different game from what he showed fans the year before. And the way he introduces it just makes it all the worse.
So, a year ago, I showed...
Just a year, okay? Just a year.
This off at a computer show called E3.
Really, Peter? A computer show? This comment was either a sign that Peter was getting old, or rather a feeble attempt to avoid mentioning the word video game to what I can only assume is a slightly older audience.
Yeah, I think they were trying to pivot away from it being a game and pivot it towards it being like a marvel of technology, like an advancement in tech. And so it's not a game. That's for children. It's something else. And I think it also, you got to remember in this time period of like 2010, 2011, video games were still not they're not taken super seriously by like the mainstream. I mean, even now you still see like discussions of how video games are causing violence in our schools and stuff, like stuff that was being said in the 90s. You still see that type of thing being brought up. It's still seen as sort of like an immature thing, but to a much lesser extent than 15 years ago, circa 2011. Nowadays it's much less of a problem or a taboo, but back then I think it definitely was.
This was a piece of technology. It was someone called Claire interacting with this boy. And there was a huge row online about, hey, this can't be real. And so I waited till now to have an actual demo of the real tech.
Wow. Peter the Brain Molyneux has done it again. Who knew this was his plan the whole time? No way this was some sort of half-baked attempt to backtrack on false promises made for a game that was built on misleading footage and blatant lies. It was just a primer to get us excited for the actual game. Okay, but really though, have you ever witnessed a more blatant admission of guilt? I mean, he literally comes out and says this is the actual demo of the real tech. At this point,
implying that the last one was not real and was not an actual demo. Also, I love the random guy just sitting on the chair on stage. Like the TED Talk. What? Oh, you're in a TED Talk, Tom? Tom, what is the TED Talk that you're in? I just sit in the chair. So, like, I don't talk. I'm the TED in the talk. I just kind of sit there. So
he comes out and says this is the actual demo of the real tech. At this point, he's not even trying to hide that the game was a lie. And then he has the audacity to try and put a bow on the whole thing by pinpointing his team's one sole goal.
Just to get to this one simple idea, to create a real living being in a computer.
Oh yeah, Peter? That one simple idea? You mean the idea that modern technology hasn't even come close to cracking? The idea that could one day lead to technological singularity, subsequently blurring the definition of what it actually means to be human? And you found that on the Xbox 360? Listen, I've really tried to cut Peter some slack in this video, but the way he talks about creating Milo like he's some sort of 21st century Geppetto is just really, really annoying. Yet he still tries to redeem himself with what appears...
I mean, I'm gonna make a connection here, okay? This is a guy who started basically the genre of like the God game where you're playing the god of the civilization and you like manage everybody. If a guy is known for spending his career building out experiences where you play as God, giving life, purpose, meaning, and tasks to little computer people, it's not that shocking to me that he might also develop a bit of a God complex when it comes to creating people within a computer. You know? It's not that surprising to me. Yeah. I don't want to be better than people. I just want to be some being that creates lesser beings that I have complete control over. That's all I want, not much. And I'll call it Project Milo.
To be some newfound attempt at transparency.
Now, I'll be honest with you and say that most of it is just a trick.
Wow. There's a reason I'm spending so much time on this intro.
Woof.
I mean, with every sentence, Peter just finds a way to dig himself into a deeper hole, and it just keeps getting funnier.
So why don't we go over and have a look at the demo now?
Here's the thing. All of game development is sort of a trick. Like all of it is, okay? Every little bitty thing, like the often referred to sliding through the crack in the wall, is a trick to cover up loading between zones. And cool little tricks like in Star Wars Outlaws, where you go and the ship goes into clouds and then you land on the planet's surface. That's covering it up. In No Man's Sky, it's doing model swaps. When you're walking through an environment, it's not actually rendering the castle in the distance. It's a super low poly version of the castle that gets swapped out when you get closer. Like all sorts of crazy stuff is happening. There was a TikTok I wanted to show you that I think actually fits in relatively well with this discussion. I just thought this was interesting. But it's a game dev on that has a TikTok page. Sky of Bricks is where I found it. But this is basically him describing how he manages to put player characters onto a ship that he has in his game. It's like a brick, like it's a sort of like Sea of Thieves, but it's all kind of Lego looking bricks and stuff. But he wanted to explain how he's able to track player positions on that ship, even though the ship is constantly moving. And basically what he describes is creating a ghost ship that directly copies the movements of the parent ship that you see on screen, but then the player's position is transported to the ghost ship, and then the movement is tracked as you're on the ghost ship, but the camera is still paired to the original ship. So even that is a trick. Like when you step on the ship, you're not actually on the ship, you're on an invisible ship off screen, but the camera position stays on the ship you just stepped on so that you don't get any of the weird like behavior of you clipping into the floors or anything. Really clever, but it's also a trick. All of game development is a trick. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong and the problem is when you present your game as though you just created sentient life and you're basically Jesus Christ, and then you walk it back at a TED Talk a year later. That's when we have a problem.
Wait, this is Dimitri? Like the Project Dimitri? Turns out this part isn't a lie. Apparently the original project was named after his godson the whole time, who actually worked at Lionhead on the Fable games. Who knew? Now comes the actual demo. The honest demo. And there's one key difference right off the bat. It appears as though this time we have a real person playing the game live. Finally, the curtains have been drawn back, and we can see some real gameplay for the first time. Let's check it out.
So, he's discovering the garden, you're helping him discover the garden by just pointing out these snails.
So, the demo finally begins, and what we appear to get is some sort of on-rails snail spotting simulator. It's a bizarre way to start, especially considering the bold claims Peter made about Milo in the intro. As the camera rolls along, Milo finds another snail on the ground, at which point Milo encounters his first test of morality. Turns out Milo has a thirst for blood and sadism, and toys with the idea of squishing the snail underneath his shoe. At this point, Dimitri is prompted to use voice commands to either encourage Milo's behavior or stop him.
Do you want Milo to squash it? When you see the microphone, say yes.
Squash.
Or no.
Go on, Milo, squash it.
No, that's the right thing to do. No, that's the right thing to do.
Well, that was unexpected. But what doesn't come as a surprise is how the voice recognition system has changed. You'll notice that in this new demo, there are explicit prompts for when you can actually speak to Milo. Of course, this wildly contradicts Peter's first demo of the game, in which it's heavily implied that speech is free-flowing and spontaneous. At this point, the presentation continues for another 6 or 7 minutes, where Peter demos a handful of other incredibly boring minigames. But what makes it funny is how these demonstrations are always accompanied by long-winded boasts of how the game is so much more sophisticated than it actually looks.
His face, by the way, is fully AI-driven. We have complete control over his blush responses, the diameter of his nostrils. His mind is based in the cloud. If you're leaning forward, he would slightly change the neuro-linguistic nature of his face.
The neuro-linguistic nature of his face. So he'll just move his eyebrows, is what you're saying. That's what you're saying. You know, there is a saying that this reminds me of. I've used it before. But when you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, baffle them with your bullshit. I think that this is a prime example of that. It's like, you may not be impressed with the demo, but neuro-linguistic bendy gibbledy goop nostril size, you know, it's really cool. I promise. I know it doesn't look like it, but nostril size, blushing, you know?
Actually sculpting a human being here. We've got a database of...
He's talking about sculpting a human being. This is like straight up God complex stuff. This is like straight up, I'm not saying that I created Milo, but he's effectively the dust of the ground. And I formed him. And then I took a rib and I created a friend. It's like, bro.
Words which we recognize, we pick those words out. We also reference that with his the Tonation database.
In all
Todd levels, no, dude, this is way, way, way worse than anything Todd's ever done. And I meme on Todd constantly, okay? I feel like I've earned the right to be able to say that. Like, this is, Todd's down here. Peter is up here. Like, the stuff Todd does is that he kind of like beats around the bush, or maybe he knows it's going to be kind of lame to find out that you're not able to freely fly your spaceship on a planet's surface. So he just won't talk about it. He'll dodge the question, you know. He just won't talk about it. Like, Todd is a salesman. I think Peter's a liar. I think with a God complex. I think that that's the difference.
Honesty, I would imagine the audience was bored to death by this presentation. After 3 years in development, the game just looks so incredibly underwhelming, and one can come to understand why Microsoft felt the same way. This is also made evident by the presentation's view count, which is dwarfed in comparison to the millions of views garnered by the first demo.
Yeah.
So it may come as no surprise to learn that shortly after this presentation was made, Microsoft would permanently shut down development for Milo and Kate. This was of course due to a multitude of different factors, and can't be simply attributed to one reason. Speculation points toward the fact that Milo was being developed during a time when the Kinect was still trying to understand its target audience. As the project evolved, Microsoft would opt to target demographics engaged in party settings, which kind of put Milo's mellow, single-player gameplay into an awkward category.
It was also just boring. Like, who's gonna be like, oh, I'm so excited for Milo, it launches next week, I'm so excited, I'm gonna pre-order it. Like, who's doing that?
It's also fair to speculate that Microsoft closed development due to false expectations surrounding the game. which were set so high by Peter's outlandish claims. Whatever the reasons, the news came as a devastating blow to the Lionhead team, who were all incredibly excited about what they had built up to that point. Regardless of Peter's lies, Project Milo really utilized state-of-the-art technology that resulted in many impressive features. There was formidable voice, image, and even emotional recognition that genuinely would have held weight as impressive features for its time. So it came as even more of a disappointment when the team was forced to recycle all of their progress into a watered-down spin-off for the Fable series. The way Microsoft saw it, they weren't going to let 3 years of technological development fall through the cracks without making a little
Dude, every time I see Don Matrick, it just kind of makes me mad.
cash, so much of Lionhead's research ended up being reworked into a new Kinect game set in the Fable universe. Suddenly, Milo's emotional recognition was being repurposed so players could develop bonds with in-game horses, and Milo's hand tracking became the foundation for casting spells. It definitely wasn't the kind of closure the Lionhead team wanted for Milo, but at least it was actually released. Unfortunately, Fable: The Journey was received poorly for the Kinect, with its main failing point boiling down to, you guessed it, false expectations. Initially, Peter Molyneux swore up and down that the game would not be an on-rails experience, but upon release, fans would come to find that exploration within the game was entirely linear, and players were certainly not happy. After Fable's failure on Kinect in 2012, Peter would leave Lionhead permanently to pursue yet another independent venture. Due to reasons most likely pertaining to Milo's cancellation, Peter felt as though Microsoft's hold on Lionhead was becoming too much of a creative barrier.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't want him to, like, lie or make stupid stuff that nobody wanted. You know? Like, and I think that, you know, the people who like Peter will often point out that he's like a visionary who just gets in his own way by getting too excited or maybe being fast and loose with what's technically true. And like, I get that. And I'm sure to a certain extent that is true. But at the end of the day, in the gaming industry, you are creating experiences that you need players to want and to find compelling. And that's kind of true of many artistic endeavors. But that's why it's the gaming industry and not just like games. You know, if you want to do the weird experimental stuff, you can go off and create or just go in your basement and build something for yourself or explore stuff and craft it without any expectation of creating a product out of it. But if you want Microsoft's funding to do it, of course, there's going to be an expectation that you're going to create a product that will sell and that people will want to engage with. I find it really cringe to like take Microsoft's money, but then also at the same time throw kind of a hissy fit when they're like, hey, this thing sucks. Can we do something people want? You know,
and was
what did you
disheartened
expect?
with the company's decision to can the project. Peter would then go on to found his third new company in the gaming industry, 22 Cans. Unsurprisingly though, Peter's new venture would fall prey to much of the same behavior that he was known for previously, with a sequence of scandals and false promises that would continue as a result of his presence in the media. It seems like no matter what team he was a part of, Peter was always finding ways of getting himself into trouble. As for Milo, well, it's been almost 10 years since anyone has spoken about him. Many ex-Lionhead members went on to call the project filler or a tech demo that accidentally wound up in production, and some at Microsoft deny it was ever a game in the first place. In 2012, Peter was asked about his thoughts on Microsoft's decision to cancel Milo, and in a brazen attempt to deflect all blame, claimed that he felt the industry just wasn't ready for it. Somehow, Peter had
We had so many snails in the game. You could pick them up. You could squish them. You could not squish them. And that's not even counting the other snails that we didn't even show you. There were so many snails. You have no idea. The industry just wasn't ready for it. Like, bro, come on.
convinced himself that Project Milo was just too ahead of its time to be brought to market. And I guess if you consider all the lies he made about the game, then yeah, he was right. At the end of the day, it's kind of a shame. If Peter had just focused more on what was possible with Milo instead of what could be possible, we might have actually seen the game released. And who knows, it might have been half decent. But the truth was, Milo's technical capabilities just weren't advanced enough to meet the expectations put in place for the project, and the ideas that actually made Milo exciting just weren't ready to be made a reality. But now, with breakthroughs in artificial intelligence occurring every other day, we may not have to wait too long before we see another company take a crack at the idea.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I think it's easier than ever to do something like a Project Milo, but make it real. Because you could have just any sort of LLM, especially any of the big ones, you can train them, even a lot of the open source ones, you can train them up to just like, respond to me like you are this character. And you describe the character of Milo, and then you just let it go. And you put in parameters for what it can say and can't say, for tone, for everything else. And then maybe also say, include instructions for how the character should move or certain tasks as they move around the environment. And then you attach those tasks to different animations to move them around the environment when they do it. And you just let the AI run it. Like, it's actually quite easy nowadays, but frankly I don't think it would be that fun even with modern technology. It'd be like, cool. But like, how do you turn it into a fun game? That's clearly a separate question.
Let's just hope that, unlike Peter, they've got the proof to back it up. Thanks for watching.
There you go. Very, very good video again from the one and only Slow Start. Get over there, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, show them some love. I will say, again, I've gone back and forth with the Peter Molyneux stuff. After seeing this, it's again really, really hard to interpret it as anything other than just like compulsive lying. And I think like maybe to a certain extent, there's a little bit of a God complex, just a little bit. But when you are for 20 years caught up making stuff up, lying, and as you move from studio to studio to studio, that you found, regularly there are instances of you getting into the same types of trouble with overpromising, with saying stuff is in the game that is not in the game, with overhyping it and then disappointing people. Like at some point, it's you know, it's like the old saying, wouldn't God have hair? How dare you? At some point, you know, it's like that saying where it's like, everywhere I go, everyone's an a-hole. It's like at some point, if everyone around you seems to be an a-hole, it's probably you that's the a-hole, you know? Like at some point, you don't get to be the victim anymore. And maybe it's you. Maybe you're the problem, you know? Maybe you're the problem. It's just madness. So anyway, he is now doing something. Let me see. He's doing another Molyneux. He's doing a new God game, Master of Albion. You remember Jeff announced it? Gamescom 2024.
My town's working hard to make that food.
This, sorry, professional streamer.
Or not. I can also design, customize, and create all buildings.
So he's doing something much more in line with his traditional, like, I guess, interest and experience. But even this one, did this even come out? Master of Albion. I don't actually know. Coming soon.
This is Masters of Albion. We're a team.
When was the last time they updated it? Coming soon. Is there no website update history? No updates. So anyway, Facebook game. How dare you? I think, you know, if you like those types of God games, it's fun, honestly. Like I like Civ management games. I like that kind of thing. And I think that this is much more in line with what I think he's able to actually deliver on. But man, what a whiff. Excuse me. Anyway. How are you guys? The industry isn't ready for that. Did you see Lego's trying to build a tiny computer in a brick, or put a tiny computer in a brick? Yes, you guys said smart Lego is what they call it. Is that what they're calling it? No, I don't think that's it. We just Googled it a minute ago. Smart bricks. This technology pack smart brick CES. It has a speaker, LED lights, tiny chip inside that can sense and interact with smart brick minifigures. This is one of the sets with it. So as you aim at it, it registers with the other one and creates sound. Okay. Oh my God. The prices are inflated compared to non-smart Lego sets, but not outrageously so. Darth Vader's TIE Fighter is a 473 piece with smart Darth Vader minifigure, one smart brick and one smart tag, priced at $70. Okay, that's not as bad as I was expecting, frankly. Luke's Red 5X Wing is a 584 piece set with 2 smart minifigures and 1 smart brick and 5 smart tags, priced at $100. The Throne Room and Duel, A-Wing, it's 960 piece with 3 smart minifigures, 2 smart bricks, and 5 smart tags, priced at a slightly shocking 160. So this one is 160. I gotta move the cam back. So yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Does it have AI in it? They probably will say that. Yeah. That's probably what they'll do.
What if you could bring your imagination to life for real? Play with your creations and let them play back with you. Well, that's exactly what we've built. Wait, really? Introducing the LEGO Smart Play System. Oh, boy. A new platform made of endlessly interactive smart bricks, smart tags. Seriously? And no way! Smart minifigures. Hold on, so you can interact with the little guys now? All connected to bring play. What if you could bring your imagination?
And it just stops. What is playing?
I'm a little princess. I made a rabbit. My monster has 4
Something's
eyes.
playing.
And he can levitate. His name is Daniel.
His name is Daniel. Okay, so then they have charging pads. Is that what that is? Or is that how you pair it to the set you're building so it knows how to interact with it? I mean, honestly, it's not the most insane thing I've ever heard. It's kind of clever. It's far from the first time that they've done this. They've done smart bricks before, or smart sets, you know, with different stuff. But so the tag goes under it. Yeah. They tell smart brick an object what to behave and sound like: a car, helicopter, even a toilet. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. I think they just found a way to charge 40% more for every single set, though. I think they figured it out. I think that's how you do it. I think they figured it out. Okay. Only Honey, thank you for the membership. Thank you. Let's see. Total Malarkey, thank you for the 20. Suggestion for a new segment: Kingmakers, the medieval time travel game, intended to come out last year, was delayed to Q1, Q2, Q3, and then 5 days ago before release was delayed indefinitely. Might be worth a look into it. Interesting. I might be able to send some emails because I know some of those. Well, I know people who know them, I should say. I know people who know them, so I might be able to get a hold of them. You never know. Might be able to find out something. But thank you for the suggestion. I'll see if I can dig something up. Yeah. Interesting. Somebody did bring up a good point with this, though. Tom Warren tweeted out about the smart bricks. Somebody replied, Will this need RAM too? Probably to a certain extent. I mean, I think that this is like genuinely a cool idea. I'm not mad at it at all. Especially because I like the idea that with these things you could build out smart Lego sets like that can have more interaction between each other. Like that's cool. As long as they keep doing sets that don't have them as well, I'll be happy. But it's interesting. Might just be a gimmick. Who knows? Who knows? Let's see. Luke knows people barely. I know people who know people. That's my thing. How can I join the Discord? Connect your YouTube account to the Discord account, and then it'll automatically invite you. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Okay, one more for us to check out. I want to look at this. Okay, close that. Okay. Let's do this. News, man. Wrong button. Okay. So everybody, the first, well, how do I want to introduce this? I also wanted to do this one too. Okay, we'll do this one because this is also what I wanted to do, and we'll tackle them both. I think I have time for both. Okay. News segment. So one of the videos we did like a week or two ago is we looked at a video from IGN that was actually very, very good. And funnily enough, it was a video posted by, I think, the best host that they have. Let me pull up his little splash card. It's this guy, Jim Trinkup. But you'll notice the logo on the bottom left is not IGN's logo. It's apparently because they are owned, like Eurogamer and IGN are owned by the same parent company. So IGN has started reposting Eurogamer videos, which they can do. And they ended up being like the highest rated videos that they've put out in a long time, which I find really funny that the best IGN videos are non-IGN videos. But having said that, this is a video that a bunch of you guys recommended we check out, posted over a week ago from IGN, and it apparently discusses why the comparisons to Red Dead and other similarly massive games can kind of end up being the thief of joy. You know, they say comparison is the thief of joy, and apparently this is making a similar case. Let's see what he has to say. Check it out. Take it away, Jim.
Let's consider the facts here. Red Dead Redemption 2 and Mafia: The Old Country, released 7 years apart, are both about a guy who rides horses in a hot country, which means they're exactly the same, and so it's perfectly reasonable to compare them like to like on how they handle inconsequential details like, does a fence break if you shoot it, or how much does water splash if you shoot it, or will a guy cradle his wound if you shoot him? Sure, we might be comparing billion-dollar apples to bulk discount Sicilian lemons here, but it does prove conclusively that Red Dead 2 was the last good video game made with real passion and not to further some sort of agenda. Oh, I can't even do this facetiously, but it seems as though the internet is obsessed with comparing Red Dead Redemption 2 to everything that comes out, from the latest Assassin's Creed to the new Mafia to even Death Stranding 2 of all things. But why? What is it about Red Dead 2 that makes it the bar to clear, even now, after the best part of a decade? And why does it seem like games and the technology they run on are getting less impressive as time goes on? Well, let's talk about that. And I'll tell you straight off the bat, it's got nothing to do with developers being lazy.
I will say at the outset, I'm excited to hear his case. I agree that it can often spoil the fun when you are constantly comparing everything to Red Dead or to GTA or to Cyberpunk or whatever. Games are made with different intentions and different priorities constantly. And all of game development is about the concessions. It's about, we want to do this, but we can't do it all the way to that degree, so we'll do it to this degree and we'll make the most of it. It's always about making those exceptions and working with it. And it's important to remember also like the scope and scale, the budgets, the time, all of that. Red Dead compared to Mafia as an example, because I remember those comparisons. People being like, you could swim in Red Dead, you can't swim in Mafia, therefore Mafia is bad. And it's like, they are fundamentally different things. Like these games are so far apart in what they're trying to do, in the resources they had available to them, the time they had available to them. Like comparing them is frankly ridiculous. It's just, they're not the same thing at all. And so I also cringe at a lot of the comparisons. And I think that it's also, unfortunately, just an artifact of modern social media, videos on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere, is that it's really easy, especially when people are looking for a reason to be upset about a game or something. It's really easy for them to attach to it an excuse or an explanation by saying this other thing looks better or is more impressive in this way, therefore it's okay to dislike it. We saw it a lot with a lot of games that came out in the last like year and a half that people may have disliked for political reasons. We even saw it with like KCD2, where there were people saying, no, this game is bad because it's like too European or something. And so they're trying to find a reason to be upset about it, and they look at comparison videos where they see like the muscle deformation in KCD2's horse muscle is not as good as Red Dead 2's horse deformation with their muscles when they walk. So clearly they're lazy. And so, you know, they just start to look for reasons to be upset, you know? It's cringy.
There is a good reason why certain types of outlets are fixated on the idea of Red Dead Redemption 2 as the gold standard that every subsequent game fails to live up to on some level, because it's a hugely popular game from a beloved studio and the social media algorithms know that. But there's very little value in producing content about it unless you can tie it to a new release or some kind of fresh news story, because until there's a remaster or a sequel announced, there's not really anything to say about it that people don't already know. And as much as you don't gotta hand it to them under any circumstances, these content creators do actually have a point. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a stone cold classic and remains one of the most technically impressive game worlds ever realized. Its map is outrageously vast and diverse, with realistically populated urban, small town and rural environments of every kind. Its attention to detail in its world simulation and how the player can interfere with it is frankly staggering. We haven't seen anything quite like it before or since, apart from, you know, other Rockstar games, of which it is considered the best, and for good reason. There's a cottage industry of gaming content out there that is obsessed with unfavorably comparing new releases to genre classics. If the internet flags you as a gamer, you probably have been fed a lot of these comparison videos that compare cherry-picked footage with the goal of demonstrating that new things are bad and old things are good. It's our generation.
And what's funny is that even happened back in 2018 or 2017 or whatever year you want to look at, where even back then there were comparison videos pointing out how the older game was better than the newer game, which is, I think, just a human thing to do. We always look back on the simpler times and how they were better. So I think it's very normal. Even, you know, whether we look at, you know, something like big franchises like Call of Duty, where we look back at the older games and like, oh, they're so much better than what we have now. Or we look at, you know, other projects or other things like even single player games like the Mafia franchise, which he brought up. We look back at like Mafia 2. Oh, that was way better than Mafia 3. So it's far from a new phenomenon for sure. I think it's just exacerbated by the fact that those videos go super viral too.
It's equivalent of pining for racist sitcoms based on the war, or pining for the war. They're often short form as well, so they'll be less than a minute long and all the footage will be scaled down to a portrait frame, which is obviously bull. We're clearly not talking about a Digital Foundry level of analysis here. Yes, I'm allowed to mention them. And no, we're not enemies now. I can't believe Digital Foundry walked out on us. Red Dead 2's remarkably future-proof technology and the gorgeous art direction that give it its timeless look is a gift to people who make this sort of petty outrage farming content, because it's getting long in the tooth, and we are at a point where I think instinctively we would expect it to look its age by now. 7 years in terms of the video games industry, this massive ongoing autobahn collision between artistic expression and tech product. I mean, that's a lifetime. The amount of time between Red Dead Redemption 2 and Mafia: The Old Country is the same amount of time as there was between the original Grand Theft Auto on PS1 and San Andreas on the PS2. And the difference between those games is mind-blowing. On that basis, you'd expect Mafia: The Old Country to be almost as realistic as actually going to Sicily, as if Sicily needs any more lemons. But everyone watching this knows that's not the case, because we just don't have those massive generational leaps in technology anymore.
Well, and I think it's not always just about technology. Sometimes it's also about manpower, time, resources, and like, considering that the technological advancements have allowed them to make this game in a much shorter period of time and way cheaper, I will say, than like Red Dead 2 was. If you wanted to make Mafia: The Old Country with the level of fidelity and interactivity and simulation and everything that you saw in Red Dead 2, it would be possible, but you would need 2,000 people that are all industry leading talents, and you need to give them like 5 to 6 years to work on the project, and you'd be spending like $1 billion doing it. And that is just frankly not something that makes sense for 99.9% of all companies out there. It just doesn't make sense to spend that much time and that much money on something like that when you can spend like 40 million, 50 million, put this game out and make more profit and take way less risk than spending $1 billion. You know, at some point it just doesn't make sense. Like, you can make a lot more money for most companies. You can make a lot more money with low risk, smaller products than trying to swing for the fences with one gigantic project. Like, there are companies that have gone to bat trying to do the $200-300 million AAA games, hoping that they blow up. Because I know some people are going to be like, well, just do the AAA thing and then you'll make AAA money. Do you remember Forspoken? Remember that one? Do you remember Saints Row reboot? Does that ring a bell? They tried swinging for the fences. Now they missed. They missed. Concord, yeah, they missed. They spend crazy amounts of money and it did not pay off for them. And that's where the risk comes in. Because it's easy to say, just make a Red Dead 2. Make The Old Country, but with Red Dead 2 levels of interactivity and complexity and simulation. It's easy to just say that. If it were easy, everybody would do it. Why wouldn't they? The reason not everybody does it is because it's incredibly difficult and stupid expensive, and you need world-class talent as a part of all of that, which you can't just get, by the way. Like, you can't just flip a switch and hire the world's best people. Like, you either have to pay them way more money, or they have to already be working for you, or they have to believe in what you're doing so much that it's going to be good for their resume. Just like everybody who's working on GTA 6 right now knows that being on your resume goes a long way. Goes a long way. You have GTA 6 on your resume as like a quest designer, you're going to be able to get a job anywhere in the world you want, right? Whereas working on a Mafia project, maybe if it ends up blowing up, sure, but it could also turn into a Forspoken, in which case nobody wants to touch you once you've worked on a flop, you know? So the point is, people act like the reason you don't get more Red Deads is because of laziness, and that's just not the case. For most companies, 99.9% of companies, it just doesn't make sense to try and do that. It makes way more sense to do something smaller and more focused with tighter scope that you can rely on being successful with a smaller budget. It makes way more sense to do that than to try and swing for the home run and potentially end up like a Forspoken or a Concord. It just doesn't make sense to take that risk, you know? And I think it's good because, like, I don't want more flops. I want more games that I can enjoy. I really enjoyed Mafia: The Old Country. I did rant and rave. Rave is maybe the wrong word. I did rant and vent a lot about the ending of Mafia: The Old Country. If you want to hear that, I put together a big like 2-3 hour critique of the game. So you can go check that out if you're interested on the main channel. But anyway.
But why? Well, Moore's Law is not the law. The fact that 7 years have passed since Red Dead 2 means absolutely nothing. It's a pithy and effective thing to point out if you want to convince people that video games are crap now, for reasons. But the passage of time doesn't guarantee whatever a YouTuber's narrow definition of progress is. I'm not a YouTuber, I'm a member of the specialist press. When I started high school, there was no such thing as an MP3 player. It did not exist as a concept. And by the time I'd left high school, everyone had an iPod. And that's only like 4 years because I'm a thicko, right? So in that short amount of time, we went from the concept basically not existing to it reaching its zenith. The portable digital music player with capacity measured in gigabytes and an intuitive interface that your granny could use. Now, since all the things we used to carry around with us have been superseded by everyone carrying around a portable supercomputer that is your iPod, your phone, your telly.
Dude, the fact that he has like, I thought I couldn't like this guy anymore. It's just, he's fantastic.
Your life.
But he is right that, like, at some point, the diminishing marginal returns reach a point where it's just not going to feel like that big of a leap anymore. It's like, as you know, if we go back to the 1980s, so we'll just say that this is like 1980, okay? The industry and the tech advancement has kind of been like this. And so, you know, maybe this is launch of the PS1, and then you get PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5, and then PS6 will be here. It'll be a step up, but probably not that big of a leap compared to what you're expecting, right? And that's why I think they'll also, frankly, I think they're going to come up with a reason to delay the next gen. I think that probably happens. I think it probably doesn't happen now till like 2020, late 28 to possibly 29. I think that it's going to be delayed, especially with the RAM stuff going on. But I think that this is just what's happening, and it's happening with game fidelity as well. And I think a lot of people are hoping for that like PS3 to PS4 leap in graphical fidelity. They didn't really get it with the leap from PS4 to PS5, and they're still hoping for some big leap. And I just don't think we're really going to see it. I think where the advancements will come is with like NPC AI, with scope and scale, and hopefully with optimization, but I guess time will tell. YouTube Nathan, thank you for the $10. Very generous. Thank you. Hey Luke, big fan. What's your opinion on the newer Pokemon games, and how would you recommend Nintendo win the fans back with next gen games? I think this is the non-Nintendo fanboy take. I think the recent Pokemon games look like ass. Sorry, not sorry. Just my opinion. Cancel me. I don't care. I understand some people really like them. I think they look like ass, and so I've had zero interest in them. My wife, she played the recent, I forget which one. She played one of the recent Pokemon games and had a fine time. It was super broken for her though, so I don't think she was even able to finish it. It got so broken at one point. Maybe they fixed it now, but she had to give it up at least for a while. So I don't know. I have very little interest, but what I did have interest in, that I didn't expect to have interest in, was Pal World. So to me, it seems like if they want to win people like me over, they should give the rights of the IP to other studios that are more capable, it seems. Whoever's doing the Nintendo or the Pokemon stuff right now, what they think is good enough is far from good enough for people like me. So if they want to win people like me over, at least, they need to bring in some fresh ideas. Because it's not working. It's not working. And I think that if they license the IP out to other studios, like if they gave, you know, the IP to Pocket Pair, I think that'd be baller. I think that'd be awesome. But anyway, let's continue.
Library, your local branch of Tesco, a Spirit Level, and your mum. It's fair to say the rate of change in electronics is a bit more sedate than it used to be. I don't know about you, but the phone I have now more or less does the same my iPhone 4 did 15 years ago. And it does it in the exact same way. In fact, if you went back and showed this to a person in 2010, they'd know exactly what it was. They'd instinctively know how to use it. And if anything, they'd probably wonder how you can manage with something that's so big. I mean, to someone rocking an iPhone 4, that's like a broadsheet. If you went back to the time of Diocletian and showed a Roman irrigation engineer one of these, they'd probably ask you not to wave a piece of obsidian at them while they were trying to drain a lake with an Archimedes screw. The exact same Archimedes screw his ancient Greek counterpart was using hundreds of years earlier. Like hundreds of years earlier. Now what the f am I talking about? Well, I'm just trying to illustrate that the rate of technological advancement is not and has never been constant. Progress is not guaranteed in tech or science or medicine or anything. We've just come to expect it because we happen to have lived through a time of accelerated change. And I think our brains have also been cooked by concepts like Moore's Law. If you haven't heard of Moore's Law, it's often expressed or understood as roughly a doubling of computing power every 2 years. What Gordon Moore was actually doing was observing that the number of transistors that Intel could cram into a single chip was doubling at a consistent rate, and extrapolating that to predict where the technology would be a decade down the line. But Gordon Moore was speaking in his capacity as a businessman as much as he was speaking as an engineer. And the thing about businesses is that they like stable, predictable growth. In a nutshell, Intel likes knowing when and how it's going to sell its new chips. And although every chip manufacturer since has tried to keep Moore's Law going, because their businesses all operate on the assumption that it will hold like forever, it is no longer a sure thing. In fact, a lot of businesses have decided that it's already over, and that's rapidly becoming the consensus. And that's also one of the reasons.
Well, it's also not just about, I think it's also how the technological advancement is applied, right? So we can have more powerful computing hardware, which we objectively do, but it's how it's used that matters. And I think in the leap from like the PS2 to 360 era, we had huge leaps in the available memory, which allowed for much bigger worlds and open worlds and larger zones for you to explore. And then the jump to the PS4 era, there was much more memory, and we also had higher levels of VRAM available, so you got better textures and all sorts of stuff. And I think all of that contributed to what were tangible leaps. With the PS5 era, the leap has been much more towards a player demand of 60 frames from 30. Back with the PS4 era, 30 was the standard. Like, that was the standard. And I think with the push to 60, that's led a lot of studios to try and hit those targets with like a performance mode that suffers graphically, or at least in terms of fidelity, whether it's by lowering the resolution or it's by doing really aggressive upscaling like we saw with Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which the whole screen looked like it was smeared with a Krispy Kreme donut. I mean, it just was like blurry as hell. So when we talk about the AAA space with the PS4 era being okay and tolerant of like 30 frames, nowadays that's seen as like, if your game launches just at 30, it's like, really? And so the standard, or a lot of the extra power has been pushed into that. And to be clear, I'm okay with that because I like having higher frame rates, but I think that's also part of the reason that you haven't seen a lot of crazy pushes elsewhere. And they also, let's be real, this generation has been completely focused on ray tracing. That's where a lot of the effort is going, a lot of the extra compute power is going. And I think most people don't feel like it's worth it, but maybe one day it is. Some games it definitely is tangible. You can see a big difference when it's ray traced versus not, but the performance drops as a result are rough. Let's see, Eric Kane, thank you for that super chat. Hello there. Have you heard anything through the grapevine about Indiana Jones games future or the new Tomb Raider game? Man, I miss the games like that. I even replayed the Angel of Darkness recently. That's how desperate I am. They're on their way. They're chugging along. We should get at least one of them this year. As for Indiana Jones, I'm sure they're working on another one, but that's still probably like 2-3 years away. But I bet you we get another Indiana Jones. It was too successful not to, like it was way too successful not to. Thank you for the super chat.
By the way, the old paradigm of games consoles getting cheaper after they've been out for a few years, you can forget about that as well. Miniaturization is reaching a hard limit. So this assumption we all have as a society that technology just gets better somehow doesn't hold up anymore. And this phenomenon that's...
I will offer some potentially reassuring. Well, I'll offer this. I think part of the reason so many console manufacturers have refused to lower prices and have even risen prices is partially because of things like tariffs and manufacturing costs, because of RAM shortages, stuff like that. A lot of it's also greed, as he suggested. But when I say greed, I mean the company is pushing harder on the price line than they would typically or would have last gen or years ago, because they feel like they can get away with it. And for the last handful of years, that's been the case, is that like as gamers have been more skeptical of releases, they're buying less AAA games, but they're still engaging with hardware. They're still buying hardware, upgrading, and doing that type of thing. That's changing starting this past quarter. I mean, the last couple of quarters, it's been kind of rough for video game spending. But I think for 2026 especially, it'll be really rough. I think people are going to be very careful with their money, not just because of broader economic factors, but also just everything is raising in price. So they're going to stop buying. And that's going to force all of these companies to start trimming margins to get some volume coming back. Because it's easy to have 30% margins when people are buying your product. When everybody says, screw that, we're not buying it at that price, then maybe you drop to like a 10% margin or a 5% margin because you just need money to flow in. And that, I think, is what's going to happen with the console space, probably not till like 2027 or 2028. But I think that you're going to see video game spending, especially on hardware, take a nosedive this year. And that's going to force the companies to start trying to get much more competitive in order to win your dollar and win your engagement on their platforms, which I think long term will be good. Short term, it's going to be ass and super annoying because everything's going to be so expensive. But long term, I think it'll be okay.
Kind of broken gaming, where games from 10 or more years ago are still holding their own against new releases that have all the current tools available to them, is evidence of that. One of the firms that has declared Moore's Law dead and buried is Nvidia, which, not being shy of putting its money where its CEO's mouth is, has been spending its vast R&D budget, thank you crypto bros, on coming up with ways to continue improving what their products are capable of in smarter and more targeted ways than simply increasing their raw power. Technologies like DLSS and ray reconstruction, for example, are designed to make extremely marketable features like ray tracing, 4K, triple-digit frame rates achievable on silicon, which just doesn't have the raw numbers to do that sort of thing without cheating somehow. And the upshot is that noticeably better results are achieved with only modest increases in raw power. The goal is to do more with less, or to do a lot more with only a little more. Work smarter.
And you can train those super sampling models on supercomputers that are building out your same data center infrastructure that you can then use to go to investors and claim all of these advancements with your AI initiatives. So it makes investors happy. It lets you still pretend like things are getting way, way better regularly, even though it's just like software updates basically for DLSS and things like that. On average, I've noticed a decrease in performance in AAA games, particularly due to AI upscaling, which demotivates the devs to optimize their games. Hopefully we see a shift towards true optimization. Well, ultimately, Composed, thank you for the 10. It's a managerial issue if they decide to launch in January versus in May, right? I'm sure the devs are always asking for more time. It's the management and the producers that decide when it goes up. If the managers and producers think that the upscaling stuff is good enough or will get the game to good enough, they'll do that. They'll push it out and be like, okay, well, I can't tell a difference between super blurry and super sharp. So yeah, call it, it's good. Ship it, which I think has happened with plenty of games. But if the devs have the time and the resources and they prioritize it and they are rewarded for doing so, then you'll see plenty of studios taking their time to optimize. Like plenty of people meme on AC Shadows. The game was pretty damn well optimized. Tell you what, even after the delay, they were able to add Steam Deck support. Virtually unheard of that a game gets delayed and they make so many optimizations that they're able to add Steam Deck support when they initially thought they weren't going to support it. That's awesome. That deserves credit. You don't have to like AC Shadows, but that is a good Ubisoft. Pat them on the head. Same with like KCD2. That game, they took their time. They optimized the crap out of it, which was a common point of feedback from the first game, was that it didn't run very well. And they made probably one of the most impressive optimized games of 2025. Ran fantastically well. And all of the freaking text sheet stuff that they put out where it's like, these are the recommended specs, none of them included upscalers in those stat sheets. It was like, no, that's for extra frames. We're not hitting targets based on those. Don't be stupid. Like, it was awesome. Very refreshing. Veilguard 2, yeah. Veilguard, to their credit, they optimized the crap out of that game. There were other problems with that game, certainly, that you couldn't optimize, but that one also deserves credit for being optimized. So I think that they really, like, the key is reward studios and games that take their time and polish, and punish the studios and publishers that are rushing stuff out. People punished Ubisoft for rushing Star Wars Outlaws out the door when it wasn't ready by not buying it. And you know what? Ubisoft responded by fixing it eventually, and then also by delaying all of their other stuff so that they didn't run into the same problem with AC Shadows, with Hexe, and everything else. And that's the point. But I think the key is when there's other games that come out and they're not ready for prime time, don't buy them or return them or whatever, to send the message that you're not going to tolerate it. That's the key. Continuing.
Not harder, all that. Which brings me to the last point. You are not Unreal 5's customer. The difference between Red Dead 2 and Mafia: The Old Country isn't just the span of time between them, it's the sheer scale and scope of the projects. Now, we know a lot less about Mafia's development story than we do about Red Dead 2's, by virtue of the fact that Mafia's only just come out, but we know enough to make a few educated guesses about the resources available to it. Mafia: The Old Country's developer, Hangar 13, took charge of the Mafia series in the mid-2010s, which led to its first release, the much maligned but honestly not that bad Mafia 3. Now, it's interesting that Mafia 3 is probably the closest equivalent to Red Dead 2 in Hangar 13's entire back catalogue. It's a proper open world with all the side content and icon janitoring that implies, and just like Red Dead 2, it runs on a proprietary engine. Now, this was back when Hangar 13 was a bit bigger and had the resources to maintain its own game engine, and without getting too much into it, because hell, this is already dragging on, since those halcyon days, Hangar 13 has properly been through the ringer. We're talking huge expensive projects getting cancelled, multiple layoffs. One of its 4 studios lost 2/3 of its people in one go at one point. The Hangar 13 that made Mafia: The Old Country is a much skinnier beast than the well-resourced one that made Mafia 3 all those years ago. And that's why, instead of a full-fat Mafia 4, we've had a remake of the first game, a linear mission-based experience, and The Old Country, which was marketed as a return to the series' roots, i.e. a much smaller, more focused experience. Not because of any artistic restraint, you understand, because it's cheaper to do that. Before you start typing...
And it seems to have worked. It seems to have worked. I tweeted out the reveal... Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it. It was one, I tweeted it out. It's because they revealed that Mafia apparently like turned a profit, I think it was. Was this it? Yeah. Mafia: The Old Country beat internal expectations, proves there's a market for narrative games done well, says Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick. And this was in a broader discussion about a bunch of other stuff. But let's see. Yeah, they were kind of underwhelmed, I think, by Borderlands 4. But other big game of the quarter for Take-Two Interactive was Mafia: The Old Country, which beat the firm's internal expectations. And Zelnick says proves there's a market for narrative games done well. What we suspected was confirmed, which is just if you give consumers a great narrative experience that's a lot of fun, somewhat contained, and at a fair price, then you have the perfect result. Which was great. And I agree. You know? But there were people saying that the game was bad because you couldn't swim. Like, if those people that are doing that, you know, that are saying these games are bad because they're not as good as Red Dead in these various regards, if they had their way, then like literally the only companies putting anything together would be the big AAA companies that can afford to swing for the fences with big budgets, but you end up with largely generic experiences that are meant to appeal to the mass market. If you want smaller, tighter experiences, you need to reward them when they come out. And the key is that they're unique and they're well done, and that they also are priced appropriately. Like, I think if you price a game like, you know, Mafia: The Old Country at the same level as GTA 6, expectations will naturally be there. But they didn't do that. They priced it lower to set the expectation that this is a smaller experience, and I think that helps a long way. Nate, thank you for the 10. Hi Luke, how's your holidays? Loved your 2026 awards and upcoming games, but you forgot one category, the Mommy Award. The game this year will ask for uppies. Jesus. Which game will have us asking uppies? I'm gonna say ill, if you haven't seen that game. Ill. Satya asked for people to stop calling AI slop. Okay, Microslop. That was the funniest backfire ever. If you guys missed it, Satya Nadella, he said I really hope for the time that people stop calling it AI slop, because it's not slop at all. And then everybody starts calling them microslop, which is freaking hilarious. I find it so funny. It's like the classic thing with like YouTubers and streamers. It's like, don't tell people what really bugs you, because then guess what? People just do it more. You know, I really hate it when you guys say that I have I don't know. When you guys say that I drank a candle, it upsets me. Guess what people are gonna do? Constantly bring up the time that you drank a candle, you know, allegedly. Release the candle cut. Jordy, thank you for the 10. Hey Luke, with everything going on with RAM and now GPUs, should I pull the trigger on a Steam Deck or a gaming PC for traveling now that Steam Machine is definitely pushed back? What I would say, honest advice, if you're looking for a portable gaming machine, browse and stay up on like Facebook Marketplace, eBay listings, Craigslist in your area, stuff like that, for people that are selling their Steam Deck, ROG Ally, whatever else, in order to like upgrade to the Legion Go 2 or whatever else. At least in my area, there's a lot of people that like bought an ROG Ally a couple years ago or a Steam Deck a couple years ago that are trying to upgrade to like the Legion Go 2, for example. And so they're selling their old handheld at a very, very good price in order to get into those. So I would probably follow those, because they will work they'll work great and you'll get a great price on it. So I'd follow that. If you have the money to burn, and like we're saying that hypothetically, you know, money's not an issue, I'd recommend the Legion Go 2. I have one upstairs. Bro, that thing is awesome. That thing is freaking amazing. Not even close. I have a Steam Deck. Great little device. Granted, it's like a third the price or whatever, or half the price. I don't know. It's way cheaper than the Legion Go 2. But if money's not an issue, bro, the Legion Go 2 is insane. It's ridiculous. It's like a Switch, but a gaming laptop. It's awesome. You can detach the controllers. It's awesome. It's freaking great. Anyway, unpopular opinion, this first Steam controller was peak. That is unpopular. It was like holding a brick, dude. I remember holding it for the first time because a buddy of mine in college had one, and I thought that it was like a toddler's play toy, or like one of those fake controllers that you use as a dog toy. You know? So, you're right. Unpopular opinion. Wrong. Continuing.
There, that Mafia 3 isn't as good as Red Dead either.
Okay.
Before you start typing down there that Mafia 3 isn't as good as Red Dead either, what you talking about, Jim? Well, yeah, it's not. But even in their heyday, Hangar 13 was nowhere near as big or as rich as Rockstar. They never had the money to have one guy spend 6 months on making horse balls react realistically to wind chill. Only Rockstar can do that because they have more money than the mob or God. Rockstar has the resources to build a hyper-realistic, reactive world the player has a convincing presence in. It's
well, and you got to remember, This is again why I've said watch out for these Chinese studios, dude. Because what is one thing that allowed them to build Red Dead the way that they did? That GTA money. The GTA Online money lets you do so many things that you just don't get to do otherwise, man. Because you just have an endless credit card. Like, you just unlimited. Crunch as well. They also have Crunch. But like some of the Crimson Desert stuff, let me see. Yeah, like this. Hold on. This was recorded on a potato.
Crimson Desert has been talked about for years.
Joystick Insider. There's a joke there about putting a joystick inside of, you know what, it's not important. This game, I'm sorry to just mute. I'm just trying to look at a visual representation. I'm sure this is a great channel. I was like, I gotta see this. But like with this, people are like, how on earth is this possible? How is this possible? And it's because they have Black Desert Online money. They got that MMO money. And that allows them to lay, and rely on that money to fund everything they're doing. Because even if Crimson Desert goes belly up for some reason, the company will still be okay because they got MMO money, baby. And that's true of a lot of these companies. Like Blood Message. You know, this one, Blood Message, looks absolutely insane. This game is coming from a NetEase studio, a big Chinese development house. They built this out with NetEase money, and NetEase, historically, they've got a crap ton of resources and money flowing in from all sorts of live service games that they've built out in China, in Japan, all over the place. They're a huge, huge company that has tons of money flowing in from those live service efforts, and that allows them to pour money into this with way less risk to the overall health of the company. That's one thing that Ubisoft used to have when they were more reliable with their releases. They haven't really been hitting it consistently out of the park like they used to. I mean, it used to be that Ubisoft was just pumping out AAA bangers pretty regularly like 10, 15 years ago. It's been a while, but now you're going to see it from a lot of these Eastern devs too. So I think that having that sweet live service money definitely helps bankroll big, very risky operations like a $1 billion or $500 million, open world game.
One of the most expensive games of all time with a budget in the hundreds of millions. An estimated 1,600 developers worked on it across all disciplines. Now, if everyone at Hangar 13 worked on Mafia: The Old Country, including like receptionists and accountants and all that, and that's quite an assumption, its development team is less than 300 people. So that's less than a fifth of the team it took to make Red Dead 2. On a much longer turnaround, by the way. So look, even accepting...
If you break it down in man hours, dude, it's not even close. Like the amount of people multiplied by the amount of time, like it's a fraction of a fraction that made Mafia versus Red Dead 2. Like it's just not even close. But it's because they were trying to do different things.
The dubious idea that Mafia: The Old Country doesn't look any more graphically advanced than Red Dead 2. The question...
But that's why I agree with him. It doesn't look like significantly like a huge leap forward over Red Dead 2 graphically, despite being 7 years apart. But even that is pretty remarkable when you consider that now you're able to achieve this level of fidelity with a way smaller team way faster. Like that's where the leap was made. That's where the leap was made. It's just that's not as exciting for the player because we don't see the dev process. We don't see it taking, 2 or 3 years versus 6 or 7. All we see is the end product, but that's why I think that pricing is so crucial. Like, I think that you really, really have to price it appropriately because if it took you less time and it's a smaller budget, if you price it at $50 instead of 70, that goes a long way. Sorry, I said 6-7 again. God damn it.
Shouldn't be, how come this 7-year-old game beats this brand new one in direct comparison? The question should be, how the f did Hangar 13 get anywhere close to Red Dead 2? with the resources it had. And if it wasn't close, those guys wouldn't be comparing it. And yeah, part of the answer is that they didn't spend any time on inconsequential like fences breaking realistically when you shoot them, or horse balls, or can't really think of anything else apart from horse balls. Now I'm kind of fixated on that. But the other part of the answer is that
Well, and that stuff does nothing but satisfy like the people who are making those comparison videos. And frankly, I think the average person just doesn't really care that much if you shoot the fence and it snaps in half versus if you shoot the fence and it has just the little bullet hole on it. I don't think people care that much. It's certainly cool, but that's probably like, oh, cool. I don't think the average person is like, I was gonna buy the game, but the fences don't break. I don't think anybody said that at all. I think what they were probably doing is when they are looking for a reason, or they don't like the game for one reason or another, and then that offers a sort of affirmation of what they had already decided, which is it's a human thing to do, but it's I don't think indicative of quality, certainly.
13, like lots of other studios, including CD Projekt Red, has switched entirely over to Unreal 5, which is not for your benefit or mine, frankly. It doesn't really matter to the end user which brush is being used to paint the picture, after all. All game engines have their pros and cons. I don't understand them because I'm not a game dev. And while a lot of Unreal Engine's marketing is aimed at punters like me and you, so its splash screen is mentally associated with good graphics and is therefore a mark of quality, most of the recent marketing isn't so much about how great the games look. They're more about how much work the developer had to do to get there.
Yeah, it's all about efficiency. Absolutely. Walter, thank you for the 10. Imagine being the unfortunate Rockstar dev that had to work on immersive horse balls. I think Sam Hauser talked about that, and he's like, I didn't know that was in there, but it's probably not. I think Sam said he didn't think, or Dan. I think it's Dan Hauser, right? I don't know. I think Sam and Dan, are they brothers? I don't know. It's a blur. Anyway, one of the Hauser brothers, he did that interview with Lex Friedman, and he was talking about the horseball thing, and he was like, I don't think it would take necessarily that long to do. Because you basically go into the horse agent within the engine, and then you add that as a thing that gets checked in the code once every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Are you in this area? Check the temperature of the environment. If it's at this temperature, shrink it by this amount. Like, do that. So probably relatively straightforward, but it's kind of a fun idea. Fun idea to just, a guy was sitting at lunch, and like maybe he came into the office one day. It's really cold out. And then he's like, what am I going to do today? What am I going to do? By God, I've got it. I'm going viral. Probably didn't even tell his boss about it. Just took care of it. Did it. Just like, we'll see if anybody notices.
If you look at Unreal's procedural time-saving technologies like Nanite, Lumen, or MetaHuman, the big innovations here are in automating or making obsolete the kind of busy work that developers used to have to do, such as producing level of detail assets, or pre-baking light maps, or pressing F5 to make it good. I don't know, I'm not a game dev. The upshot of all this is that the ancient, decrepit Red Dead 2 being able to hold a candle to Mafia the Old Country at all doesn't represent any kind of regression. It demonstrates that the art and technical direction of one of the most expensive games of all time was built to last. I should think so, frankly. It demonstrates that technologies like Unreal Engine 5 and others have democratized the kind of fidelity that 7 years ago could only be achieved with bespoke technology and a bigger wage bill than Real Madrid, and that the economic feasibility of AAA game development is undergoing a massive rethink because it's just not as sustainable as it was in its 2018 form unless the end product is guaranteed to make $1 billion. Far from
true. It's just change. But I think that absolutely what he's pointing out, like with the democratization of that level of fidelity, it's something we've grown used to, but the little touches and the attention to detail, that is something that you can't just like have a better engine to achieve. That's something that either like you need more people or more time, or both, realistically both. And it's something that they're able to do with Red Dead 2 with the budgets and timescales they have. Doesn't make sense for like a smaller team of 100 people that's trying to put together a AA kind of game. You know, it's just not where their focus is. And I think that's good. I think that's okay. We need more AA games, frankly, than we need more attempts at big AAA games. Personally, just my opinion. Cancel me. I don't care.
Being a regression, it is technological progress. It's just not the kind that brings your wee brother closer to his ideal of ultimate photorealism, where you push the bayonet slowly into somebody's throat and then have to go to therapy.
Well, I think that this is also one of the other things that happens with Red Dead. You know how like on a scatter plot you can have the all of the little points of, I don't know if this would be like quality, if we say like the vertical is quality, but you got all these random little plots, and it's like over time, you know, it's kind of like this with quality and budgets and all of this. And maybe some of them have massive budgets, if this is like the budget scale, but you know, terrible quality. Some of them are right in the middle, but then you have like Red Dead 2, which is just like all the way up at the top. It is clearly the outlier, but everybody is pointing to the outlier to try and make a rule for the data set, which is not how that works. The general rule of the data set is either you take in the average or look at the broader group to come up with what should be expected. Red Dead 2 is the outlier, but everybody tends to try and point to it as the rule. And so it's much less like when we look at Red Dead 2 and games like GTA 6, and we find them so remarkable, it's less of a bad mouthing for the whole industry and more of a testament to how remarkable Rockstar is. You know, it's less about putting down everybody else and more about praising Rockstar for being so fantastic, you know? Is that a Banksy?
Mafia: The Old Country is a bit of an experiment. Can a studio make rent by knocking out these smaller games? Focused experiences that have
Oh my God, did you see what was on his computer? On his monitor?
Studio make rent by knocking out these smaller
Did you see?
games.
Do you see? I need one of those, dude. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. I need one of those. That's great.
Focused experiences that have AAA production values, but without the AAA statistics and, crucially, without the AAA price point. Is there an audience for that, or do too many people habitually believe they're being shortchanged unless they're literally playing a Rockstar game? Only time will tell, but I'll leave you with this. I'm very suspicious of a lot of these outlets that obsessively compare Red Dead 2 or whatever to newer games, because it's always pretty clear that the point isn't to compare and contrast the differences between old games and modern ones in a sort of academic way, but to deliberately feed the notion that in recent years gaming has fallen off, that there's no passion in the industry anymore, that all the talent has left and been replaced with political activists because their engagement depends on the impotent anger and malaise that characterizes the information dystopia era that we currently live in. The sense that everything was better before. Before what? Before when? Well, you know, I just want to go back. Back where? Back when? Well, you know, when I had light in my eyes and I still had my whole life ahead of me and I could go out with my mates whenever I wanted and I didn't have responsibilities and debt and life wasn't an endless meander from one disappointment to the next. I could still see my Taja. And Red Dead 2 had just come out. Oh, I was only asking.
I think it's also, and the reason why like we should kind of buck the trend and the feeling is because if you start to look at everything as though everything sucks and the industry's terrible and your favorite hobby is dying and all this, you will start to see it everywhere. And everything will just be a confirmation of it. And how all social media works right now is whatever you are looking into and watching, you'll be fed more of it. So then you'll just go into this spiral of everything sucks, everything's bad, you shouldn't be excited, you shouldn't be interested, everything's awful. And it just spins and spins and spins. Like, it's why I make these videos saying, no, I think it's probably never been a better time to be a gamer. Maybe with how much RAM prices are going up, I'll say last year. You know, maybe last year there was never a better time to be a gamer. This year might be rough, but you know, I think that the industry is like bigger than it's ever been. There's more talent involved with it. The tools are more accessible to anybody. Game of the Year last year was a first-time title from a brand new studio using a publicly available game engine that you can use and download right now. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's a very good time. Are there going to be flops? Sure. Are there going to be disasters that we're going to talk about? You betcha. But let's not lose the forest for the trees, you know? Let's bear in mind that with some broader perspective, things are very, very good. Things are very, very good. You know? Try to look at things with a little more optimism, a little more brightness, and I think you'll end up having a much better time. Because for every game that maybe some people might look at like a Mafia, the old country, and be disappointed that it's not like Mafia 3. The other way to look at it is that we got a new unique Mafia story in a tighter package from a studio that at most other companies would have been canceled, and the studio would have been shut down years ago, you know, years ago. I don't like positivity. I have to reset my algo now. Exactly. Yeah. Oh. And I think that there's a balancing act to be had. I've said it. I've said a few times that, like, yeah, we meme on stuff, we make fun of stuff, and when something is bad, we'll call it out as bad. But I think sometimes people, I guess, mix that up with therefore everything's terrible or everything sucks. I'm like, no, this thing sucks, but all this is great. You know, I want to be clear. The reason this one feels like it sucks so bad is because how good this stuff is. You know, it's just a slightly different way of framing it. The AAA devs are disconnected. A lot of them don't play games or know what they're doing. Of course, I can't speak for every AAA dev. I don't think you can either, or anybody can. What I will say is, of the people that I've spoken to, that is not true. Of the people I've spoken to that have worked on like some of the big stuff, like the people I met working at Bungie, a lot of them were obsessed with Tarkov. Shocker, they're making an extraction shooter, you know. A lot of the people at like Ubisoft that I've met and talked to, they were super into like hardcore RPGs or other games. Maybe with some case, like there's the memes of the Call of Duty devs where, what was it? Was it a cat cafe? Hold on. I think it was a cat cafe meme, wasn't it? Is YouTube freaking out? Why are thumbnails not loading? That's weird. Is this it? Where's the Call of Duty cat cafe? There was some meme with it.
Cat cafe.
Is this it?
One of my favorite things in the map is the cat cafe. There's a karaoke bar, which is a lot of fun. Those is call outs where it's like, I got him in the cat cafe. That's gonna be one of my.
Like, that is stupid. That is very stupid to be like, what's your favorite part of this Call of Duty thing? The cat cafe. Like, you should know that you're gonna get flamed for that. Okay, like that is stupid. So I'm sure there are people out there working in AAA game development that are not really gamers and are there for the cat cafes. But I think that the vast majority of devs are passionate gamers that want to make the best game they can. You know, does that mean they'll make the game you want? Not necessarily, but I think it's a bad idea to just dismiss them writ large because that's easy, you know. Let's see. Does anyone know what the hell is so expensive about AAA games? Can't imagine that you pay $700 million for COD just for the devs. Well, if we do some napkin math, let's say the average employee is like $80,000 a year, adding benefits, cost of training, cost of retirement accounts, everything like that. Let's just make it around 100,000, because you got to remember that you are employing these people in San Francisco, in Montreal, in very, very expensive places to live. So if you do that, you say for like Call of Duty, you have 2,000 devs working on it. And then let's say you give them what, 3 years? Ta-da! See? That's how it happens. And to be clear, I'm bundling into the 100,000 the cost of like the massive skyscraper studio that they're in, the cost of all of their tech, the infrastructure. They have data centers and servers that they use. They have IT teams that work with them. They have R&D costs for building out the engine. Like they have crazy numbers of expenses. So it goes up quickly. Goes up very, very quickly. Certainly. Very, very expensive. Oh, Shiva, thank you for the 20. Yahtzee Croshaw does a short episode on Second Wind that could help this conversation. A short episode on, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that means. Yahtzee Croshaw does a short episode on Second Wind. I don't know what that means. Oh, wait, the escapist thing? Oh, I see. Okay. Yahtzee Crush, I used to make 0 punctuation for the escapist. Now I make fully ramblomatic for Second Wind. Okay, I'm tracking. Okay. It took me a second. I had to Google it to decipher. Okay, I got you. Well, thank you for the 20. That's very generous. What we can do is we can find that video and we can circle back to the topic on another stream where we can give it like a good amount of time and actually tackle it, especially if it's interesting. Last thing I wanted to mention. Let's do... Oh, this is just funny. KCD2 nearly had a San Andreas-like Fat Henry system that would have let you create Bohemia's chunkiest boy and forced you to wear clothes that fit to boot. Really? Now, he just feels quite hungry. Dude, I wish that was a thing. It was just really too bizarre and too much work and not really that much fun. We felt like the clothing system is quite complex as it is, and it really doesn't need another layer of complexity. And thus they cut it. That's funny, dude. When you eat, you basically will get fatter, and then this clothing you'll have in your inventory suddenly will fit you, while the clothing you had previously on wouldn't fit you because now you're too fat for it. Or you could go on a diet in the same process in reverse. Dude. Oh. Maybe the next game. Dude, Toby. So Toby, can you do that as a DLC? I know you kind of said you're done with DLC, but if you do Fat Henry DLC, that will go viral. I'll tell you what. Imagine that they announce a DLC where it's just now Henry can get fat. It's just you eat a lot, he gets fat, and then you don't even need special clothes. You know what? Don't even add in different sizes of clothes. Just make it so once you get fat, you can't wear like metal armors or anything. And maybe you just have like a modifier that shortens the shirt length or the whatever gambeson length, and so like his belly button sticks out. That'll work great. Free ideas, okay? You don't even have to pay me for that one. There you go. I mean, if you want to, I'd be okay with it, but you know. And the belly hangs. Yeah, dude. I should be a game developer. I'm so good at this. Last one I wanted to mention. I just checked this out this morning and I figured I would share it with you. Are you ready? Do you see? Are you ready? New mini segment. One of the best ways in recent memory to figure out the likelihood of an event is not just doing polls and stuff, but is actually to look at betting markets, right? Because you can look up people putting their actual money on the line to figure out what the likelihood of something happening is. like notably in recent elections, the betting markets are more accurate than polls are and like actual data scientists, because people are putting their money on the line, and they tend to do a lot of research before betting a lot of money on something. Not always, but sometimes. And so I decided to look up what are the betting odds for GTA 6's release date. And I found it. Kalshi is actually trading a market on this, which I just found interesting. And basically the three categories were, what are the odds that it launches before August of 2026? What are the odds that it launches before June of 2026? And what are the odds that it launches before 2027? And this is what it looks like right now, okay? As you can see, all of these were trading based on different pieces of information, different earnings calls and stuff that went on throughout the last year or two. But notably, of course, when they announced the delay into November, all of those odds plummet off a cliff, except for the before 2027 one. But even then, you see that the 2027 window is still trading at about 81%, meaning that the market is still split 80-20 roughly, or 81-19 on whether it gets delayed into 2027, which is wild. It's wild. But you can see, like, even back before the official delay hit, there were still like a lot of people were like, I don't know if it's going to be dropping. If it's going to be dropping in May, I really don't know. There were like, this gap was people thinking that it was going to be delayed from May to like June or July. But you know, once everything got delayed, it bounced out, and then you can see now it's actually popped up. But I just thought that was interesting. So still not totally locked in. The other one was the betting market over price and where people expect it to land. And right now, the odds are sitting about like this for pricing for GTA 6. The markets are guesstimating that it'll be more than 70 with about a 70% chance, more than 80 with about 30% chance, more than 90 is sitting at about 80 or 18 cents or 18% chance that it ends up more than 90, which is still crazy to me. It's absolutely wild that it could potentially be that much. I still insist. I think that they might push for 80, but I think it's more likely they do 70, but they're going to do like a premium edition that gets like a full week of early access. And if you want that, you can buy it and get early access, and like that's going to be $120 or something. And a lot of people will still buy that anyways, but that's how they can charge extra. I think that's it. Anyway. So everybody, I think we got through all the stuff I wanted to get through today. So I think I'll call it there. I will be back. When is that? Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday. And Thursday, the plan is to do a co-stream of the New Game Plus showcase that we've been working on, okay? It's going to be really, really cool. And I'm looking forward to that. We should also be doing the podcast with Jor on Wednesday as well, okay? So I will call it there. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thanks for being wonderful. And I love you all desperately. I'll see you very, very soon. Much, much love. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you soon, okay? Hugs and kisses, everybody. Bye-bye. Mwah.